No, 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 no! Ah!
Hi, this is Dale, your designer of TRS-80 Color Baseball, and you're listening to CoCoTALK.
YouTube.
This is CoCoTALK, the world's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy Color computer. It's time to drop your socks, grab your real-time clocks, and let's rock.
CoCoTALK is rocking the 8-bit world, keeping the Tandy flame alive. We may be mocked, but we'll never stop, 'cause CoCoTALK is rocking the 8-bit world. CoCoTALK is rocking the 8-bit world, keeping the Tandy flame alive. We may be mocked, but we'll never stop, 'cause CoCoTALK is rocking the 8-bit world.
Down.
Yeah.
We got a gray screen.
Trap Shop Live says other tennis bat. Demi Ergi says and the tennis zombie. Steven Scapegoat says
Tim Rye says, ooh, nice shade of gray.
You want the gallery view, right?
Nothing like testing it live.
Demi Ergi says I know. Trap Shop Live says no, that's cricket. Demoscene Television says Amigab, cheers, Amigalov, Amigab, cheers, Amigalov, Amigab, cheers, Amigalov, Amigab, cheers. Trap Shop Live says cricket racket.
Oh, well then just turn off the share.
Demi Ergi says but who says right off the racket.
And we're back to the gallery view online.
Okay, that sucks better.
Trap Shop Live says and the snooker stick.
Hi, glad to be here. We are here, right? Okay.
Howdy, folks.
Demi Ergi says
Hello, everybody.
Sloopy is muted, the chat says. No,
Just
you've muted
you.
yourself.
On the stream.
Oh,
Oh, that's why. How's that? Is that better?
Okay, people in the chat, can you hear Sloopy now?
Can you hear me now?
We'll have to wait just a 10-second delay
Just-
or whatever.
be wary of what you wish for, because you're going to be able to hear Sloopy.
Okay, we'll try this again. Should I redo the top row? Of course, because
Well, as soon as we get confirmation that they're hearing it here, because
Somebody
Lots
said
of
better.
background
I don't know if that means
60 said there's lots of background noise.
okay. Let's bring this down a little bit. All right, how's that? Is that better?
Waiting for the chat response.
I
Our
can hear you
apologies.
coming
We
through
have
Twitch.
Sloopy kind of subbing in here because Mark's on the road. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is all Mark's fault.
I'm filling in for Jason Riker today.
hey, Jim Rye says it sounds fine now. So yeah, I would start over the introduction because I didn't hear a darn word you said.
Where's your dash cam, Mark?
Just to confuse everyone, we're going to start in the top right. And
This time with feeling.
Yes, with feeling. We have the man, the myth, the only man that's allowed to talk to the CoCoTALK Game On High Council, Canadian Retro Things. Hi, Ken.
Hello, everybody, again.
And then next to him, we have the Master of Communications on the CoCo, Rick Euland. Hi, Rick.
Howdy, folks. We had one of these. Already started.
I'm ready.
The fire.
And top left, we have the Apple guy himself, Marco.
Yeah, who's that guy to the right of me? Glad to be here.
Oh, no, that's just a court jester. We ignore him.
Oh.
Carriage return line feed, we come down and we have the man behind everything, Mr. Terry Stagey. Hi, Terry.
Oh, then we're in trouble if that's the case. Welcome, everybody.
Push the button, Terry.
Yeah.
Next over, we have the great manipulator of bits, the programmer himself, Mr. Fred Pravancha. Hi, Fred.
Hello, everyone.
And then,
Yeah, glad to see y'all.
Glad you're here.
Glad you're here. Then after that, we have the great manipulator of bits so that we can get this thing running. The man who knows OS 9 better than everyone here, L. Curtis Boyle. Hi, Curtis.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Now, I did get a mention here from 60, so there's lots of echo or bright sound for me. I've never been called bright before, so I'm not sure what that means. But is anybody else hearing this supposed brightness on my behalf?
Back off the OBS a little bit, the sound on OBS, and it'll de-brighten that some.
Okay. Let's try
I've never been accused of being bright before. It just kind of shocked
It's
me.
just that when the Zoom's playing, sometimes it's a little hot in OBS compared to what it is in Zoom.
Well, this is a dress rehearsal, isn't it?
Right, right.
And then the last in the second row is the man that comes from the garage and shows us all the good stuff. Ron Delvaux. Hey, Ron.
Hello, everybody. How you doing?
Then we do a carriage return, line feed, and we have the man that does a lot, but no one really knows it. It's like that guy that's buried down in the credits. Exile in Paradise. Alan. Hey, Alan.
Hey, they let me on the show. Check this out.
Hey, they let me run the show. Come on. I mean, of course I'm going to let all
What we're
the,
saying there's been
ladies in.
bad decisions all around.
Right.
Yeah, I think you need to change the password. It worked for me.
Next, another cohort in crime, James Diffendaffer. Hey, James.
Oh, this is going to be a fun day.
And it's not even a Sunday. Then after that is our original Game On man himself, Nick Marotta. Hey, Nick.
Hello, everybody. Glad to be here.
You have to say Nick's name 3 times.
Nick Marotta, Nick Marotta, Nick Marotta.
That's better.
There we go.
Thank you, Ken.
We can retire bad jokes with yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I thought we've heard that once or twice too many, maybe thrice.
Yeah, but Nick's Canadian. He just likes to hear his name on live broadcasts. We all do.
Internet celebrities as yourselves.
Ken, okay. I understand what you're saying, Ken. Ken, we will take care of it so that we can say your name often. Okay, Ken?
Perfect.
Or the telephone poles look like a picket fence.
Can do. And last on this line, we have the man whose chair that I'm filling. Unfortunately, what I'm filling with, you don't want to know. Mark B. Hey, Mark B.
Hello. Burn a hole down the turnpike where these telephone poles look like a picket fence.
Oof. Well, don't hit them. We don't need a picket line.
So, Slippy, I don't know if you know how to fix this or not, but the comments I've been seeing in the chat from Sixy and Mikey has basically said, to be honest, that bright sound is everyone except Sloopy, seemingly. So I'm not sure if that helps to narrow down what's causing it.
It's got to be something from Zoom coming into OBS.
All right, I turned it down. Turned it down a little bit more. Let's see how that works.
Yeah, we'll have to rely on the chat here because we don't hear the same thing. We're hearing the Zoom side of things, which sounds fine.
Right. All right, we're going to do.
Technically, we're the brightest panel we've ever had.
That's the way to put a positive spin on it.
And
well, we got to do something.
All right, we're going to do a carriage return without a line feed this time, and we're going to go all the way down under to the man who gives us the great games, Nick Marentis. Greetings, Nick.
Hey, that's my cue to wake up? Okay. Good day, everyone.
And good day to you too, Nick. And then last but not least, we have the star of the show, the man, the myth, the legend, David Ladd. Hey, Dave.
Really?
Tap.
Hello, everyone. I hope everybody's having a good day. This is going to be one of the greatest clusters we've had yet. So be prepared. We're ready. Let's have some fun.
What kind of cluster is that?
Yeah, people needed to hear the pre-game show to understand.
It's a fluster cluck.
Yeah.
Still getting the same symptoms on the stream too, so just so you know. So apparently it's not just the volume level that's causing it.
Maybe there's a filter on the audio that I don't have installed in OBS or something, or I don't know.
So for the chat, I mean, hopefully we're still understandable.
Yeah.
Well,
Hey,
as much as we ever are.
As long as they can hear everyone and we've got audio, I'm not going to complain. So
Yeah, as long as I can understand this, then I don't know what to do to fix it either. So.
Not my job.
Justin Larson said it's like V, and Sloopy's the only non-alien.
Are
For
y'all
those of you
aliens?
that remember the VTV show?
Yeah.
So let's get this show rolling downhill, and let's go right into the high score challenge.
Welcome to the CoCo Nation Game On Challenge of the Week results video. This week we played Able Builders. We had a total of 17 players. David Ladd with 820. Sabhead 1790. Canadian Retro Things 2750. Exile in Paradise 4040. Nine Finger Tom 4140. Justin Larson, 9720. Terry Steen, 9790. Shenley, 9940. Jim Rye, 10,330. Bacon Fire Bob, 10,690. We had a tie for 6th place between Mr. Dave 6309 and Rich N with 11,280. Ed Rhodes, 12,790. Tasman, 13,050. Sloopy Malibu, 68,030. And we had a tie for first place, so The #1 spot this week is shared between Buck Owens and Brian Walsh with 105,670. Thanks everybody that played. We will see you again next week. So a huge variation in scores there. You can tell by the top people who were using paddles, and the lower people were using joysticks.
Demoscene Television says Lou.
And here is some footage of Buck Owens playing, on the higher levels. So, I guess he had to work hard to get that to tie for first place, but... Yep.
So
Anyways,
is this
with
the first where the high score #1 has been a tie?
Yes. I know, Buck intended to do that. Brian Walsh originally tried to tie Buck's score, but he accidentally went over by a little bit, so Buck played again and tied the score up.
That's the first time I've ever heard of anybody accidentally trying to beat Buck Owens. Or to not beat Buck Owens, I should say.
But so I couldn't find any reviews for this game. This was, I think, Curtis, you said this was one that was a magazine game included with the tape.
Sorry, what was that?
You said that this was one of the games that you got with when you bought a magazine on a tape.
Yeah, T&D magazine.
T&D magazine, right? So I didn't see any reviews for it. So
no, Rainbow usually did not review any games from any particular, like Chromaset or T&D or any of the other tape-based magazines, because that was just considered a kind of a competitor magazine just done on tape format, because they had basic program listings and tutorials and everything else, just like a magazine did. So they didn't review any of them. If it was exclusive to a subscription-based tape magazine, they didn't cover them. The only time you ever saw games covered is if they bought the rights to a company that was going out of business, like when they bought Tom Mix or Spectral and they started selling, Donkey King is on issue 82 of T&D or whatever type thing.
Anyways, as I alluded to, some people that had built paddles for their color computers were able to get much higher scores in this game. I know, Sloopy, you're one of the people that built a paddle, actually live on the air during the Game On Challenge night.
Yep. Did he stream the actual building?
No, he didn't stream it, but we heard some colorful
Lost
language about
opportunity.
him trying to find some stuff to do with.
Lost opportunity there.
Yeah, I just streamed my audio. I didn't. No one.
So
wants
we
to
don't
see
actually
me.
know if you really made a paddle, is what you're telling us.
Oh, I actually showed it. Would you like to see it?
Yeah, but you could have had it done already, and then you just showed it.
I don't know that.
Intending to make it.
I don't think Sloopy's that good of an actor on some of his language while he was trying to build it.
If you heard it live the first 3 times before it worked, yeah.
Yeah, here it is. If you can see my video.
Nobody else can, but
no, because.
Oh yeah, you've got video sharing.
There, I will stop the share there. Enough of Buck Owens.
Yeah.
It's always Buck Owens, Buck Owens, Buck Owens during this thing.
Yeah. And here's the controller. I actually used a IEC cable from a Commodore 64 disk drive because, hey, they've got to be useful for something.
And they have the right number of pins.
Yeah, and the connector fits. That's why the Commodore 64 was made, so that we can have joystick cables. And then that's where I soldered them together and just threw a piece of tape on there so that I wouldn't have any shorts. But it worked pretty well. So, back to you, Ken.
Oh, okay. So tips and tricks for the game.
I would say
I really sucked at it, so I don't have any tips or tricks for the game.
Yeah. You seem to go to the next level by getting the what's the name of the person dropping the rivets?
Your foreman.
Yeah, the foreman. You seem to get to the next level by getting the foreman all the way to the top by catching all the rivets. And it seems that not catching all the rivets allows you to stay at a same level. But obviously, once you get to level 15, the speed doesn't change, so it doesn't really make much difference.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I did notice is that once you got past like level 10, 12, it was much easier than it was like on the lower levels. I actually got as high as the other ones, but because I started on level 15 and not level 5, I didn't submit it because it wasn't officially according to the rules.
Well, I think actually, as long as you don't start on a lower level, submitting a score that you start on a higher level probably is okay. I mean, you're starting from a harder point, so... Well, not on most games. Okay, never mind. Forget that I said anything. I'm just rambling.
Yeah.
Anybody else that played this game have any tips or tricks for it?
Either a paddler or an analog free floating joystick is the only way to play this game.
Yeah, you can't play it with a digital joystick, because...
And you can't play with auto centering even if it's analog. Not well, anyway.
Yeah. The author of the game actually did submit a score as well.
I was hoping he'd pop out his stream, but unfortunately it doesn't sound like Terry got a chance to it.
No, I guess he's working on something right now that is taking up most of his time, so... Although he did, I think I read some in one of the posts that he's planning on revisiting some of his games after he's done whatever project he's working on.
Mm-hmm. So... Alright, is that...
Did he give any clues as to what he's working on?
Yep. That would be on the Discord.
I don't have time to check all 5,000 channels, so what did he say?
That would be on the Discord. It's kind of one of those go see it on the Discord things.
Okay, well, at least what channel is it on?
That would be a clue. Ask me on the Discord.
I still have rights to the Discord, right? I can delete a bunch of channels and narrow this down?
Yes.
Well, Ellen, you can go find which channel that was in and let us know so everybody can go look. That's interesting.
Definitely.
And you say that was on Discord?
Yeah.
It is. Or you could just search for Terry in the corner and jump right to it.
Are you saying we need to put someone in the corner?
Besides me? No.
They're saying that there's echo. Can you still hear the echo now?
Yeah, you muted earlier and it said they still heard it then, so it's not bleed in from your monitor. Did you change a setting you found, or?
I turned my Zoom volume down a little bit because it might be the outside possibility of it feedback through my microphone. But but when I said do you still hear the echo now? No one said anything to be able to test it. So, can you
is
still?
Is it just Sloopy that's echoing, or is it
everybody else but Sloopy?
All right, can you hear the echo now? And people on the panel talk while I shut up.
Okay. Want to say something? Just talk a little bit.
Oh, okay, we're talking. Does anybody?
Hello, are you gonna be there?
I don't know. I'm talking. There's some calls.
Should we all go to Discord?
Jim Rice says that's better.
Okay.
Jim said it's better.
Everyone but Sue.
Okay. Yeah, it's basically echoing through my microphone here. I'll change that a little bit.
All right.
Well, it's better now. So you don't have headphones, Sloopy, or earbuds or something? Or?
I can't. I'm partially deaf, and if I have earphones, but I can't hear out of them. They don't turn up loud enough because they give you warnings. Hey, you're gonna go deaf. I'm already deaf.
Too late.
Well, here, let me finish the job.
Yeah.
Oh, and hey, I see that John Schaller has just joined us.
Yes.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome, John of the CoCo Show.
Hello.
And some other tawdry podcasts, but anyway.
Couple other shows.
Okay, well, I don't think we have much else to say about Able Builders here, so unless...
No, it's a fun game. It's a good take on Kaboom with some unique methods of doing things, like instead of losing buckets or whatever, like Popcorn, all the other clones did.
Moving the girder
rivet
up
thing
and
coming
down.
and if you catch enough, you build it back up, so it's kind of it awards you for doing well.
Yeah.
Instead of just points.
So yeah, it's a fun little game. It's a little game. It's only got the one screen. I know that's what a few people complained about, is that they wish there was more to it, like more screens or something. So, but I mean, this was a game included with a magazine, so.
Yep, along with like 10 other things. So it was, that was like $7 or $8 an issue or something. So getting all that goodness for that cheap was pretty good deal, I think.
Absolutely.
And TND was the longest running. That went over 100 issues.
Okay, well, I guess I guess I should mention about the live stream. Haha. Almost forgot to do that. So during the live stream, we just had a couple of people playing. I think it only had 3 of us at a time. There was a few other people in the chat with us, but yeah, basically just the 3 of us were playing. As I said, Sloopy built himself a paddle during this, so that by the end he was doing really well. Jim was doing pretty good, and I sucked. So that was the live broadcast.
Yeah, I had full intention of joining you guys this time, and then a rush job showed up just like the last couple of days, totally unexpected. I'm still working on it this weekend. So I couldn't make it, unfortunately. Plus, I had some other things to do, which I'll talk about later.
If we do another game like this, Sloopy, you have to hold a little live thing for people to build their own paddles.
Yeah, we're talking about doing 2 games on the same game on challenge, like in a week, and overlapping them type thing. And this time, we'll just have a hardware development sidebar that people can watch.
Absolutely.
They get bored.
No, the hardware side of things, that's Marco's show. My show is games. His show is the technical. If you want me to go on his show and do technical things, I can do that. But no, I'm sticking to the games.
I plan on it.
All right, so I will now talk about next week's game. And if you've paid attention last week, you'll know what this week's game is. You might be able to tell from this.
Robot
Frogger.
Nightmare. No, I'm just kidding.
It's Frogger.
Oh, God,
It's not quite
that
Frogger.
game.
And John Schaller, I believe this is the next game on your show as well, isn't it?
That's right. What serendipity. In a couple weeks, we'll be doing this on the CoCo Show.
So are you and Aaron and possibly Brent going to participate in the high score challenge this week, maybe?
There's a pretty good shot. There's a pretty good chance I will be. I can't speak to the other knuckleheads.
Well, just demand it of them then.
Yeah. Let me tell you how well demanding anything of those guys works out.
Tell them it's in their contract.
I'll give that a shot.
That reminds me, John, when you're going to come on to the Game On Challenge Live?
Thursday night's a tough night for me. It's a tough night for me.
We
But
had
I'm
it
gonna try
on-
and I need to set myself an alarm.
Yeah, we had it on Fridays, and you didn't.
Well, they record
show
shows
that
on
either.
Fridays.
Now they're recording. They
Excuses.
decided to switch their show to Fridays.
Yeah,
Jeez.
excuses.
I know. I'm going to try and make it, man. I promise.
Okay.
Now, I do have one more Game On Challenge announcement to make. I think everybody now has to start playing this game. Because in a few weeks, probably I'm thinking over Christmas, we're going to do things a little differently, and we're going to have people, you got to get familiar with this game and play a bunch of the levels, because I want people to make their own levels, submit them in the Discord, then people will play those levels, and then we can kind of vote on whose made the favorite levels.
Okay, I believe Buck Owens has already started doing that. If I
Yes,
remember
he
correctly.
has started doing that. Yeah.
And he's only the only person I know that's completed the whole built-in level set.
How many levels is there?
30, 32, somewhere in there. Can't
Okay.
remember.
But yeah,
I haven't gone
so
through them all. I think I've gotten up to like 14 myself. But
that is our plan for the near future, is for everybody to have fun building their own levels. They don't have to be great levels, just build some levels, and then so we all get a chance to try each other's levels.
yeah, I'm playing in the right color set, like Ken's screenshot.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I noticed that was wrong.
That's the problem when you have like a toggle switch, like F1 to switch composite to RGB, and what you print on the screen, is that what it's currently at, or is that what you're going to select it to if you hit the button? And I think that's what screwed you up there, Ken.
I got my level.
You're funny, Sloopy.
I keep it
Yeah,
on
but
my.
that level was at an angle.
I keep it on my 3D printer.
Grant asks, he's obviously watched Buck Owens play live games. He said, how old is Buck Owens? 15? He plays like a kid. Actually, as Nick can attest, he's a very good play tester because he's a person that really puts a game through its
He's
through
very
the
good.
grinder to make sure, you know.
I think, honestly, has anybody ever met Buck? He might be a robot.
That's true. Paul Fiscarelli did that robot program for playing some stuff. It could be. John, do you know? Because you've had Buck, I think, as a guest, or not guest, but watching your show even longer than ours. So
Buck is, if he is a robot, he's a very human-looking robot that's very into bicycling.
They've taught robots how to ride bicycles, haven't they? Probably.
Yeah,
I
he's
still
like
think it's magic. You know how they made Kermit ride the bike in the first Muppet movie? Maybe it's the same sort of thing with Buck.
Yeah,
or it could be a bunch of neurons in a petri dish they taught to play Pong, just more advanced. I'm not sure.
Yeah. There's that Honda robot that knows how to ride a bike and has hands and all that stuff. Maybe he's one of those. Maybe he's the Honda robot.
We're gonna have to get him on for an interview, and he'll just have to like talk like this all the time or something.
There you go, Buck. You've been challenged. You have to prove that you're a real human now.
I'm a real boy.
He has to pass a Turing test.
I can't even pass a Turing test.
You said it, not us.
All right, are we ready to go to the Game On News?
Absolutely.
All right, I'll run the intro.
Okie dokie.
Steven Scapegoat says yay.
Okay, so if you guys are seeing good job at the top of the screen, then I'm sharing the right one.
Good job, Curtis.
Yeah, it'll be my only positive thing to do today. Okay, so first of all, Color Computer Programming, which is a channel of learning BASIC as you go. Now, he's been working on a game in BASIC that's actually going to be a multi-load tape thing where you load in one program. Whoops, I hit my mic. You load in the program, you play through the level, and once you get past that, it'll load the next segment in and keep going and kind of, build a huge game off that. So this is part 2, just a semi-walkthrough with soundtrack. So he's got these little play statements he's running in the background. Now he's going to edit them down so they're not quite as long, and I won't play the whole video here, but this is part 2 of Tales of Suburbia. And like I said, it's totally written in BASIC, so just interesting to see what he's trying to do here.
Steven Scapegoat says laughs out loud.
And they have his stage password so you can't cheat. So it has an auto sense when you're running into objects and stuff like that, and then it'll switch to a text screen to show what you got. And he's got different rooms and stuff as you go through, and you have to pick up items and manipulate things and stuff, just like a standard adventure game. But it's pretty interesting to try to do a tape-based, multi-layered one where you keep loading other programs here so you can make the game pretty well as big as you can fit on a tape. So with a 90-minute tape, I imagine it could be a pretty big game. So I'll keep an eye on that. I know Alan Huffman and I are big fans of his channel because he's literally learning all this stuff as he goes.
So if you go back to a previous room that you had been in before, do you have to rewind the tape?
No, he has the game set up specifically so you can wander back and forth between rooms in a certain section, but once you take a ride down to the next section, you can't go back. So he kind of solves that problem himself in the gameplay itself.
Okay, interesting.
Okay, next up, Jim Garry's released a port of the Dungeons of Doom RPG game originally written by Les Howarth, Cheryl Evans, and Chris Oxlade for the 1984 book Write Your Own Adventure Games. The version Jim did is based on the BBC Micro version. He added some simple 3D viewing using 64 by 48 SG6 graphics system that was written by Erico Montero. Of course, we saw it during the Brazilian Retro Show. And the game lets you make your own characters and even your own maps. So he gives a bit of a demonstration. I'm not going to play the whole 25-minute video, obviously, but I'll kind of show off a couple of the different parts of it. The first part, you just do the random rolling, and then you get some extra points that you can add to kind of pad out your character. So that's kind of like standard, like a lot of these games did back in the day.
So it's like an RPG game. Okay.
Yeah. And of course, you go and you buy all the stuff you need to wear so you look fancy at the dungeon party. One of the nice things here is, though, is you can actually have a map generator where you can actually generate your own levels and map things out where the treasures are, walls and doors and that kind of thing. And then the actual gameplay has a little bit of a 3D look to it. And then a self-auto mapping here, too, as well, which is kind of nice. It's even got built-in help you can see in the lower right corner there. I think it's pretty good for low-res basic. I mean, it does kind of give you that 3D impression.
Yeah, this looks pretty cool.
And then, of course, you get the monsters and stuff here. And they've just updated the auto map based on what you've now seen. So another one where you can design your own levels, just like CoCoBon that Ken was talking about earlier. So this is a game that, because it's written in BASIC, I don't think he's using too much. The SG6 thing might be a problem, but this is something you could definitely port to a CoCo 1 or 2 or a Dragon as well. And since you would have more RAM than a typical upgraded MC10 would have, you probably could actually flesh it out even a bit more. But it's a pretty cool project. And my understanding is, I haven't seen the original versions, but I don't think it had the 3D graphics version. I think it just had more of the mapping style. So he actually added a bit of functionality to it as well. Next up from Paris Red and Keys Von Oss, we've got the next AGD Games Super Sprite FM Plus Enhanced Pack, which is another 4 games now. So that's 7 packs, and I think that's 27, 28 games, something like that he's got in here. So the new ones he's got added on this one here, and of course this requires a Dragon or a CoCo 1, 2, or 3 that has a Super Sprite FM Plus board, and it takes advantage of the tile and hardware sprites that are on that board, as well as multi-voice music. Of course, I won't be playing the music here because I just got screenshots, but the games I got this time is Papyrus, Sprouty, Stars, and UFO. So, of course, these are from the AGD game system, which is basically a game development system written originally for the Spectrum, and ported to the Dragon and the CoCo by Keys and Pera, and now enhanced for the board. So now there's, like I said, about 27, 28 games now for the Super Sprite board. And as you can see here, for running on a CoCo 1 or 2 Dragon, that's quite a bit of color to have. And they're usually platformers because that's what the engine is kind of designed to power. But I have heard some of the music, the multi-voice music and the sound effects is actually quite good too. So, all right, you can download those at the World of Dragon forums in the new software section. All free. And they also announced he's doing the first big games pack, as he calls them. So this is where he kind of accumulates all the stuff he's converted over. And he's done this for the main CoCo Dragon ones too. And he updates it about every 10 releases or whatever of the previous packs. So that if you're new to it and you just found out about these, you don't have to go and download every single pack separately and install them. You can just download one zip and get them all. So in this particular case here, as of the end of the pack number 7, he's decided to combine them into the SSP01, which is the Super Sprite pack, first version. And this will get updated as things go. Actually, I just confirmed here, we're looking at the screen. It's 28 games that are included in here. that all support the extra hardware on that board. And you can download for the Dragon or the CoCo here, also on the Dragon Archive forum. And this year is to help people that are new to it to decide on what kind of games they want to try. So what he's done is he's put together all the screenshots he's taken. Now, this has been over the last few years. He's been posting these screenshots of all the games, both the black and white original Dragon CoCo ones, and then also the Super Sprite color ones. And he's attached here 10 zip files that contain 1,200 screenshots into the Dragon group on Facebook. And basically, if you remember the last couple weeks here, he's been asking to take a bit of a poll of what games he should convert next. So this is one way you can just grab all the screenshots, kind of take a look and pick some games that look interesting to you. There is one restriction, though. The Super Sprite V9958 chip that does the hardware sprites here only does 16 by 16, which means that some of the AGD games that actually used sprites that are bigger than that, because they were software sprites, cannot be converted. So he's going to make a list of which ones wouldn't work with that engine for that hardware, and kind of eliminate those from the voting poll. But once he kind of gets some suggestions here and post that list of restrictions, then he's going to have an actual full-blown poll where people can actually vote on what they would like to get converted next, because there's 300 and somewhat games or something in that he can do, and he's only done 28 of them so far, so there's lots to go. So I will keep an eye on that. Once he posts the poll itself, I'll let you guys know, and you guys can head up the Dragon. I think he might put it in the CoCo group too, to pick what games you would like him and Keys to convert next to the Super Sprite FM Plus board. Now, quick question. Is anybody on this panel? I think Brian Weezer's got his, but I know he popped in and out. He wasn't able to stay. Has anybody else gotten a Super Sprite FM Plus board on the panel here? Not yet? Okay. Just thought I'd check. Hopefully we can get Brian on here at some point soon to see how that runs and actually get a live demo.
I heard that they're beginning to make more of them.
Yeah, John got out of his chemo for leukemia second round and is doing better. He opened up the Dragon store as well, Dragon Plus Electronics. So he's fully back in at the moment.
I might consider picking one up then. That it looks cool.
Yeah. And next up after that, for the MC10, Robert Sieg, who's been working on a little software sprite engine for the MC10, has uploaded to Facebook his version of Flipple, or Flippole, or Flypole. I'm not sure how to pronounce this. But this one requires the MCX 128, so it needs some extra RAM, and it uses higher res graphics. And this is using an engine that works with the Game Boy Color, I think, sprite editing software that you can get for Windows, and then you can design your own sprites of varying sizes. It handles, I think, 4x6 and 8x8, 16x16, 24x24, etc. And then he's written some LML routines for the 6803 processor in the MC10 to actually draw these for you. And this is one of the games he's converted himself, and you can see this little screenshot here, which I didn't zoom up too much. But basically, you can see it's basically doing like the same hybrids that some of the other Inufuturo and stuff has done. But this is a library you can actually download, and you can actually use the online available tools for the Game Boy Color to actually design your tiles, design your sprites, etc. That will work with his engine directly. In fact, it'll export them in the exact right format that you need to run on his engine. So it'll make designing a lot easier instead of having to draw everything on the MC10 itself, which would usually require things like pokes, or finding a CoCo editor that actually will handle a P Mode 1 type screen instead of a P Mode 3 or 4. So thanks, Robert, for releasing that and also giving a sample game for people to try. Next up, this was kind of an interesting one for me. This channel called Games Version Comparison basically goes through the history of a game, and they'll pick like Donkey Kong and they'll show it, its various incarnations from the very first one in 1981 all the way up to modern 3D versions and stuff. And the topic he picked in this case here was for Starship Troopers games, which is basically anything based on the Starship Troopers book by Robert Heinlein. And this one actually starts out with a CoCo, because Clondathu, if any of you have played that, a cassette game that Radio Shack sold back in 82, 83, and written by Leo Christopherson, who's rather famous on the Model 1 and 3 for doing very good animations in his games. He did Android Nim, he did, was it Voyage of the Valkyrie? Something like that. Nick Reddy's might actually know some of these, because I know he's a more of a Model 1 aficionado than I am, but he's quite famous for doing well-done animations. And for those of you not seen Clondathu, I'll just play a little beginning so you can kind of see it. And then I'll skip ahead to show you how far it's come since then. Unfortunately, I did talk to him on the chat here. He didn't really know how to play the CoCo version of Clint Matthew. He thought you just had to try to get to the end square in the lower right corner there and try to dodge the word bug, and he thought that was the whole game, which it's not. Basically, you go to a square with the bug in it, you go into that square, and then you come up with a view where you're getting all these crawling spider-like creatures, and you have this little torch, and you have to light them all on fire, and they writhe and flame up. It's really cool, actually. It's fun. And you get paid for it, just pay the screams. Now, he did say he's actually found the manual and kind of learned how the game works, and he's considering possibly redoing this part of the video to show a bit more of the gameplay, because it doesn't really demonstrate it here. But just to compare what we're up against now, here's a current Starship Troopers 2023 Windows game. It's pausing, but anyway. But you can see the graphics have improved a little bit since
practically the same game.
I don't know.
Sound
Sound
effects,
effects,
the
a little bit
Clint
more
Matthew better.
Yeah, a little bit more better digitization, sound effects and stuff too.
Practically the same.
I think this is actually just cool. I mean, it's cool just seeing how a game has progressed, but it's also just cool seeing the technology change between 82 and 2022, roughly. So roughly 40 years, how much graphics and sound have come in one fell swoop. And of course, he does ones in between. You can kind of see like what games in the 90s or the late 80s and the 2000 knots, etc. have. Next up, now this is kind of a cool one too. This is actually one I discovered last week, but last week when I found it, the issues they were doing, and basically what this is if you remember the old Electronic Games magazine from 81, 82, 83, I think, I can't remember when it got canceled. I think it canceled not long after the video game crash. But basically this was a wider spread magazine than most. Most of them had video games where they were dedicated to, say, just video game consoles or just video game consoles and home computers. This actually covered all kinds of things. This covered computers, electronic chess games, a little like the one, Ken, you just showed in your second December video there, like a mechanical electronic game. This magazine covered the whole gamut of electronic gaming, like handheld, Mattel football to Tomy, mechanical games to video game consoles to home computers, basically anything electronic related that was a game. So they covered a wide gamut. And at the earlier part of this magazine's run, it actually did try to cover every single system. And this was the very first issue, October 1981. So the CoCo hadn't even been out that long. Of course, this would have been written several months ahead. So this is within the first few months the CoCo was widely available at Radio Shack, because it was kind of limited at the beginning in 1980 or the end of 1980. And they kind of just do a bit of a write-up here on the CoCo, and they got some screenshots. Chess, pinball, and backgammon are all the first-gen titles that came out right when the computer was released. Dino Wars came out a little bit later. And they kind of give you
nemesis.
What's that?
My arch nemesis, Dino Wars.
That's an awesome game. I love that game. And then they kind of go like the computer glossary, because home computers are fairly new at this time, but they kind of go through the specs, etc. He quite likes it. The person that wrote this article actually grew up with the Model 1 and 3, so he was liking the fact they had color added in. But this first issue actually did cover a fair bit of the color computer. So that's a 2-page spread describing the color computer. And then they have a quick review in text here. Let me find the link. Assuming it's going to load. Sure why it's doing that. Let's try and force reload. What would this show be today without technical difficulties? I think it's all of ours today. So anyway, they have a little text review section here. And one of the games they reviewed in this first issue of October 1981 was Space Trader by Spectral Associates for the CoCo, which is this, I probably can't read it too well here. And it's basically a strategy game. It was written in BASIC. I think I have this one on my website. But it's basically, it's like Zone Runner style. But considering that's a third-party game, from that early on to be covered in a national magazine is fairly interesting, because even people that shopped at Radio Shack didn't know there was a third-party market for the CoCo this early on, except for a few choice, people that actually managed to, find kindred spirits wandering around a Tandy store. So that's kind of interesting. They actually got one in that early, and it's also Space Trader is one of the earliest, third-party CoCo games, written in mid '81 type thing, just when Rainbow was starting or Color Computer News was starting. And then they're a little bit later. I'm not going to try to get to it here too, but they also have a comparison of football games covering a few from home consoles, a few of the electronic one handhelds, and then some of the video game consoles as well, like the Atari 2600, the television. And they actually had a screenshot of football for the CoCo, which was actually one of the original releases for the CoCo as well in 1980. So I actually did have this magazine way back in the day, and I remember being quite surprised. It was one of the few cross-platform magazines that actually gave the CoCo more than just a quick mention, calling it a trash 80 or whatever type thing. So what this guy is doing on this channel is he's taking all these, he's scanning them in, and then he basically just has some random, background music. But basically, he has a shot of each double page spread for about 10, 15 seconds, and you can actually read the entire magazine as you go through. So if you want to visit them and kind of go through them, there's a lot of interesting stuff. He's got several issues of Electronic Games magazine. There's even some ads that include CoCo games for sale, like Moon Shuttle from Datasoft and others too that you don't see too often. So I'd well recommend the channel, especially if you're into just video games in general from back in the 80s. There's a lot of cool stuff. They talk about the the rumors that the adventure cartridge for the Atari 2600 had a secret message in it, and they said, yeah, we can verify it does. We talked to the author, but we're not going to tell you how to find it. You have to figure that out yourself. Which of course people did fairly shortly afterwards, but a lot of cool history in there. And this one here, I'll mute it and just let the author talk about it.
Oh, that would be me?
Yep.
Yeah, so I just took a look at a couple of the new games available for the CoCo, Jumping Joey and CoCoBon. So, yeah. I don't know. Not much else to say there other than I like both those games.
Yep.
And, well, Jumping Joey is the one we're playing this week for the Game On, so...
Yep. I will mention too, because I was giving Ken a bad time about the colors here. This is what CoCoBon should look like. And if you select the other one, and that, like I said, this is a little bit confusing the way that's worded there. That's what it should not look like.
That's in composite, yeah.
Yeah.
I like the composite better. It's brighter.
It's wrong.
And then the review of Jumping Joy, which of course is a featured game on both the CoCo Show and our next Game On Challenge. So, and I actually got my copy in the mail too, so that'll be part of the project updates and acquisitions later.
Are you taking the shrink wrap off it?
No, I'm not going to actually play the game. Are you nuts? Anyway, thank you, Ken, for putting that up. Now, Ken, I just wanted to mention, this is not strictly CoCo related. Actually, so far it's not at all. But you've actually got a special thing going on for December, too, on your channel. We're going to be releasing a video a day. Is that what the plan is?
Yes, I am. I don't know why I thought that I should do this, but yeah, I'm doing one video a day, just a short 2 to 3 minute video, basically making my ultimate retro advent calendar. So taking a look at something each day that I would love to find in my ultimate retro advent calendar. So,
and I will ask, and you don't have to give specifics, but are you planning on any CoCo stuff in there?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, good.
But you get the better and bigger stuff as you get closer to Christmas. So,
gotcha.
And if I can just make an announcement about the Jumping Joey game. It was brought to my attention that a few people hadn't received the CD yet, and I was wondering why. And I went back to the CD manufacturer, Kunaki, yep. Just trying to see why some hadn't been delivered yet. And it turned out it was my fault, because it was the way Kunaki works is that I, as the guy who's selling or making the game, has to have an account with Kunaki. That way, when people buy from Kunaki, they the money that they pay Kunaki goes directly to me, and then any expenses to make the package and postage gets taken from that account that I have to create with them. and I hadn't been watching it in the last week, and there's a bit of a flurry of sales, so my account had expired on with them. So basically, they had no money, and they weren't going to release any until I paid. But normally, they would send you an email to say that you have funds and pending orders, and they didn't send anything. So I'm just
Well, that would
sitting
make
there
sense.
blind. It would, yeah.
So they
So I
don't
only
take a
went-
cut of the sale at the time of the sale?
No,
You pay them
no,
separately?
no, it goes all directly back to me, but I would have had to pay in advance. So I
okay.
have
I
an
didn't realize
account
that.
with them. That way, when they get an order, they can send it out or manufacture it and send it out pretty well, almost the next day. But because the money my account had expired or emptied out, they said, "Oh well, you haven't paid yet, so we can't release it, and it's just going to stay pending." And then I went onto the website and checked up my account and noticed, oh, there's no money left. That's why. So I put money in, and they.
So did you actually lose orders, or are they just delayed?
No,
Like they're still there?
No. The orders have gone in. They're not being made until I pay ahead. I've got the item has to be paid before they manufacture and send it out.
Okay, so did you have to sell some of your Ferraris back, or what?
No, I don't. I sent them some money, and now they've got money to, and they've released them all. They've posted them all out yesterday.
Okay, so how many were held back? Then I'm just kind of curious.
There's about 5 of them.
Okay.
So there's about 5 there that were being held back, pending payment, and I just didn't know about it. As I said, they normally send you an email, but I didn't get anything. So I found it there and I paid them, and all is good. And they were shipped out yesterday. So I guess people should get it over the next few days. So
Okay,
there's
cool.
that. And there is actually one more thing I need to. I've been trying to find a Richard. What's his name? Richard Osterpower. Now he purchased one, but he says he hasn't got it yet either. So I've been trying to send him a copy of the files, but every time I send anything to his email address, it bounces back. So I can't get in touch with him and say, look, you're not getting anything because your email's spitting everything back at me. So I'm trying to get a more current or some email address that I can actually send stuff to him. So that's one thing. That's one of the problems I have to battle. That people who purchase the game, the digital download, I use the email address that comes from the PayPal account. So I figured that must be up to date. Yeah, not quite. Or some email systems are blocked or whatever. They block certain things. So if you're going to buy, any of my games, make sure that your email account will actually work. So that makes it very hard to send you the files, and in the meantime, I'm still trying to get in touch with Richard Osterpower. So if anyone has it or can get a message to him saying, I have been trying to send you the files, but they can't get it through. So
Okay.
that's it. Yeah, so that's
It's
all.
not a name I'm familiar with in the CoCo community, so I'm not sure where he would have found out. If he
Richard
watched the show or
Osterpower.
happened on your website.
I
or what?
don't know. I don't know. And he's got his email address. I've sent multiple times, different ways. Nothing seems to get through. And I can't get in touch with him to let him know what's going on. So
does anybody in the panel or in the chat, for that matter, know of this person that can get in contact with him that Nick's trying to get a hold of him?
Richard or Rick Osterpower. He's in the US.
I've just got it on the chat here. Twilight Zoner in YouTube here saying, Nick, check your Facebook messages. So maybe he's gotten a hold of you that way. If that's him, or maybe he knows him, I'm not sure.
No, I haven't seen anything. I haven't. It's not in face. Well, I did.
Well, Messenger,
actually,
not Facebook itself, but Messenger.
Yeah, I will check. 'Cause I did put a message out on Facebook saying hey, looking for Richard Osterpower. So I haven't checked today. I'll check it later on and see if he's seen it. But
Okay, hopefully
yeah,
get that resolved there, because it's a good enough game. You definitely want to get it. I
So
also should mention here, since we're looking at it on screen here, we talked about before when Nick was talking about the game before, about setting up a CoCo 3.2 kind of run semi-graphics modes. And Ken, you actually did a demonstration of that on this video here, so it's not just the 2 new games. You actually kind of went through the tips and tricks of the semi-graphics.
I showed how to, according to Nick's blog, how to get semi-graphics working on your CoCo 3, sort of, mostly working.
Mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you did Rail Runner here, which you can't see the score and stuff, but at least the game's playable.
Yeah, you can play the game, you just can't see score or your level or the timer or anything like that, but...
And if you play like me, you don't want to see your score.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, you picked another Frogger clone just to combat with Jumpin' Joey, and this one actually has higher res graphics, so...
Yeah,
Sorry,
but it's got a frog. I've got a kangaroo.
Yeah, this has got a hobo. Oh no, wait, no, you're the car man or whatever they call the train guy, and then you have to rescue hobos. I think it's how that game. I can't remember the instructions for it, but
I don't know. I didn't read the instructions.
No one ever does.
Anyway, go check out Ken's video. You can get some of those details and how to do that, and also checking out CoCoBan and Jumpin' Joey all at once. Next up, we've already covered a video that Paul Shoemaker had released about this earlier, but he's actually released he's promising the last version of Ghost Rush, and this is the Christmas-themed Winter Edition, which adds in some, a different palette, adds in Christmas music, little clips, it adds in some Christmas graphics like a reindeer and, snow on a tree type thing in the background, icicles falling instead of chips, etc. So... that's available for download on Facebook now in the CoCo group. It should be available in the Computer Archive shortly if it's not already. I have not checked today to see if it's there yet, but that should be there shortly. So
he needs an Australian themed one now.
No, he said he's done with it. He's actually working on that other one with the camel animation we talked about last week. So and that is it for the. What's good?
We've got camels in Australia.
You do?
In zoos, right?
In zoos, right? Yeah.
In zoos, yeah.
Well, we even got them up in Canada. They go out in the zoo and play in the snow. No, I'm just kidding. Maybe they do. I don't know. All right, that's it for the Game On news this week. So I don't know if you want to do a break. John, did you have any official announcements, or are you just kind of popping on, or?
No, I just wanted to, I wanted to be here to support the nation, the CoCo Nation.
There you go. Maybe we should play a CoCo Nation promo commercial / ad then.
Do it.
Before I go into the news. I don't know who's in charge of that, Sloopy or
Way to put
Terry?
Sloopy on the spot.
The time has come to unite the world under one nation. An 8-bit nation. A neon green nation. The CoCo Nation. The CoCo Nation Show. Coming soon.
CoCoTALK would like to thank the patrons who sponsor our program, so our heartfelt gratitude goes out to Alan Huffman, Alan Murphy, Blair Ledoux, Brendan Donaghy, Brian Walsh, Brian Weasler, Karen Anscombe, D. Bruce Moore, Daddy Burrito, Diego, Eric Canales, Glenn Hewlett, Graham Vebke, Grant Leedy, Grant B., Henry Strickland, J Style, Justin Larson, Ken Reichert, Malfunct, Melly, Mike Rayburn, OG Hugo, Rick Hewlin, Paul Fiscarelli, Paul Shoemaker, Rob Inman, Rocky Hill, Stephen Wagner, Steve Batson, Terry Steen, The Backyard Shed Gang, Tim Thayer, Tom C., Tom Gunderson, Tom S., Tony C., and William Athing. Thank you ever so much, patrons.
It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Who's New to Discord This Week?
Motswald says, greeting programs, I'm Joe from the FujiNet team. Atari 8-bit is my first love computer and I don't own a CoCo but here to learn about them. Tom22 says, I am Tom and I am an old CoCo user. I used to have all 3 versions, but sadly sold them. Now I am trying out the emulation versions of the CoCo. I have also been following CoCoTALK and reliving a lot of memories. The previous bios were edited for time, thanks to Boys in Tech, Paul Fiscarelli, Paul Shoemaker, Nightbeard, Glenside Computer Club and the CoCoTALK patrons for boosting the server. Please consider joining Discord and visiting the welcome section to read these bios in full and see what the community has to offer. Just go to discord.cocotalk.live.
See y'all on Discord!
But Terry and his ag vision seem to be being shy, so we'll skip that to later.
Well, it is, I guess, kind of a little blue pill. I don't know.
So when did you receive it? Because I know it was getting delayed there as of last week.
What day was it? I got it Thursday morning.
Oh, that late?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy cow. I bet you were getting nervous it wasn't coming at all at that point.
I really was. I thought, oh, geez, I'm going to end up with a Commodore.
That's what guns were invented for. No, I'm just kidding.
That's true. That is true.
So anyway, Terry is kind of giving us a teaser there, holding up the Ag Vision, the blue Ag Vision, which is specifically, what's it called? It's labeled something different, isn't it?
Yeah, it's ELANCO Ag Vision. Elanco.
And that's the rarest version of that. And it's blue,
That's just
unlike the regular video text terminal.
And ag standing for agricultural.
Yeah. Right. And Lenco
It was meant
is
for
a
farmers.
big agricultural company. They do all kinds of farm stuff. So this.
And they're still around too, aren't they, Rick?
They are still around.
Yeah.
Did you plug it in and see if it gives you any smoke?
No, it actually came up. I've got it all tore apart because I wanted to do some cleaning and some videos of. I had a lot of requests for pretty detailed pictures of it, so I'm working on that right now, and then I'll get her back together.
From what I can tell, those few different characters in the ROM are the answer back. So when it logs in, the server knows what kind of terminal it's talking to and what it's supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and the Ag Vision one had a unique one compared to the regular gray video text terminal or the CoCo video text cartridge.
So never the twain shall meet. You got your Ag Vision stuff on your Ag Vision terminal, and that was that.
Blue smoke.
So Terry, do you expect to have a video or a presentation of that for us to see, like just showing it in person, like next week, or are you looking at a bit longer? I don't know what the schedule's like.
With Christmas coming up, my time's kind of been short here lately. Plus, trying to get all this other channel stuff done, so I've not had a whole lot of time. But I would like to. Maybe
You want to save it for the new year then, or
that's kind of what I was thinking. If that's okay with everybody.
It's not, but that's fine.
Do a proper demo then.
We don't have a choice.
Well, because I want to show it with the video tech and all that stuff.
Yeah, and
side
Tim
by
Linder's been
side.
working on some MAME emulations. You can actually run the server and stuff for it.
Exactly. I would really like to do that, but
okay.
time
Plus, it'd be
has
a
not
nice
been my friend.
starting video, I think, or a starting presentation to do when the new show launches in the new year. So
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we could.
Yeah, we could have it run all through the year. Ag Vision number 40.
Yeah, there you go.
All futures. Pig bellies.
So before I get in the news, because we just talked about Terry's, is there any other project updates and acquisitions? I have one brief one I can show here. I don't know if anybody else has any.
No.
Nope. Okay. Well, I showed it in the pre-show, but for those wondering, I got my order in for Nick's CoCo Arcade, which includes Jumpin' Joey here. Apparently before he ran out of funds and got it delivered. So I haven't had a chance to open it yet. This literally just showed up yesterday. And I had to let it warm up because it's been minus 30 degrees Celsius here. So
This is all you get. One card, some directions.
And then I also got a copy of Robot Nightmare from Ken Reichert. So I finally got that. One nice thing is as CoCoTALK was shutting down, and before the announcement that it was shutting down, I got a little bit of money from CoCoTALK as a thank you for hosting the news, etc. So I decided I'm actually doing a little bit better financially this year at the tail end of the year than I was expecting to. So I decided to reinvest some of it in the CoCo community. So I ended up paying for copies of Robot Nightmare, the CoCo Arcade, and CoCo Bond. So trying to get back to the community a bit there.
Nice.
In exchange, I gave up coffee for a week. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, Mark said no sound from Sloopy. I'm not sure if he saw your lips moving or something. Okay. All right, well, if you want to run a news intro, I will go into the regular news. I'm ready. We'll throw a few afterwards to wake people back up. No, they're saying they can't hear you at all.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Chad, I'll let you let us know if you can hear Sloopy now.
I'll be willing to bet they can hear me now, because evidently when you switch between things, it mutes my microphone, and I didn't realize it. Here I am using the mute on my microphone, and it's nothing.
You're
there.
double muted.
Yeah. Which is better? Which is twice the best audio.
They can hear you again. That was it.
All right, here's the news intro.
From around the world, what you need to know. Get caught up on News with L. Curtis Boyle.
Comment from Amigo Aaron. I'm presuming that's him. And he goes, OBS, because I know he's had issues. OBS changing. You change the scene, all of a sudden all the mic settings are changed. And
yeah,
I'm using. That seems to be a common problem. It's not just you.
Yeah. I have a few expansions for OBS myself, but I will let you go with the news.
Okay.
Speaking of which, it happened again, so no one can hear it, what I just said. And I guess that's Amigo Aaron. Yes, I have an expansion for OBS, but we try to keep this at least family friendly, if not a family show.
Yeah, you need a language expansion for using OBS, I think.
Yes. Back to you, Curtis.
Okay, you guys should be seeing a black screen. Exciting, huh? So basically, this is a video, and I'm not going to play the whole thing because it's 23 minutes and 55 seconds, from Alan at AC's 8-Bit Zone, installing the CoCo DV, which of course is his sprite and sound card solution, on a variety of CoCo 1 and 2 models. So he goes in through the CoCo 1 boards, the CoCo 2 early boards, the CoCo 2 boards with the T1 VDG, etc. So I won't play the whole thing here, but I can play a little bits and clips of it.
Those are 32 tiles that are used to design the maze.
So I just want to play that little intro clip because it's not part of what he's actually demonstrating here, but it does kind of show what that board that he's selling is capable of. So let's see here.
Can I interject something here real quick?
Yeah, go ahead. If they can hear you.
Yeah, it says that they should. For people who watched the Game On Challenge live Thursday night, and they saw that my stream and my image was backwards, that was actually using this board through an HDMI capture device.
Oh, okay.
So
you've got one of these installed?
Yeah, I actually own 2 of them, and I have one installed in a CoCo too, and I can wholeheartedly agree, recommend them.
Okay. Now, the one he's got now, that only works on a CoCo 1 or 2, and from what people in the chat are saying here, that Alan will make this work in a Dragon if he had one to try it on, because it should work.
Yeah, he's going to be doing it for the Dragon and the MC10.
Oh, cool. Now, if I remember correct, the Super Sprite FM Plus board, because it's in more of an external style one, I think that actually will even work in a CoCo 3. Am I mistaken on that?
I do believe that is correct, because it actually connects to the cartridge port.
Instead of directly inside, yeah. So anyway, if you're planning on getting this and you saw some of the graphics at the very beginning intro of Alan's thing, and he's in the midst of writing a Pac-Man game that looks exactly like the arcade. And this is running on a CoCo 1 or 2, you got to remember. But here he is showing you like basically how to install it on a CoCo 1 and some of the different parts that you got to fiddle with. I have no idea what's stalling so much today on Firefox. But anyway, he covers it on CoCo 1s, a couple different models of the CoCo 2, including the T1 VDG, and then kind of gives a bit of a summary of it afterwards. So it's, from a hardware perspective, is this a beginner's project, Sloopy, or would this be something more for somebody with a bit more experience to install themselves?
Honestly, it's pretty easy. If your VDG is already socketed, it's pretty simple.
Okay, so if it's not socketed, obviously you got to desolder a big chip and then put a socket in, which is a bit more complicated.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, does Alan offer installation himself, or do you have to try to find somebody third party to do that? If you're like me and can't solder for nothing.
I got you covered, Curtis. Yeah, I don't know if he does or not. I mean, there's a few people that can do it. I mean, it's not a very complicated thing, so I'm sure that if you asked him, he probably would be able to do it if his time allows.
Okay. Also mentioned Waylon here. He said he likes the way the DV extends the existing modes, and he also said the Super Sprite is a whole new thing with MSX graphics, but the DV, which is what we're showing here, is the original modes plus some improved ones. So it piggybacks with the VDG, so you can still get all your old stuff running. Whereas the MSX is kind of like a separate secondary display type thing. In fact, I think if I remember correctly, you can drive both at the same time. So you can actually do a dual monitor with separate images, kind of like a Commodore 128 does. Hey, it's a really good video. If you're interested in this board here, like I said, he does a little demo at the beginning showing some of the capabilities briefly, and then he goes through the various types of installs that you might be encountering depending on what version of the CoCo 1 or CoCo 2 you have.
Has you got a picture of the actual board there anyway? In that video?
He did. I closed that window though. So.
All right.
Do you want to see
Check
what
the video out? The video links, of course, for all of our news stories are in our CoCo Discord in the news summary channel, which is in some subgroup partway down the side. But there's too many channels. I don't know where it is.
Yeah. Do you want to see what the actual board looks like?
I can stop sharing. If you want to show it, just if you want.
Yeah.
Highlight
Zoom,
yourself or whatever.
Zoom person, highlight me.
Do we have it?
This is what the board looks like. There we go. This is just a riser because I had this one in my MC10, so it's like just pins from here. So this is
just the top part's the actual board. The other part was MC10 specific.
Yeah, this is a board. This part here. This here is just a riser for it. But yeah, it's pretty simple. A few parts on it.
And the socket that's at the top there, is that where you put the old 847?
Yeah, this is where the 6847 goes. Your old VDG, and then this is where your HDMI goes, and then you have 2 buttons here. One is for changing the mode, like different artifacting and resetting this board.
Right.
There you go. Serial number 9.
It's fairly compact, yeah.
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 That would easily fit in the Dragon because the Dragon has a lot of headroom available in the case. Whereas some of the later CoCo 2s, I'm assuming it's probably a little bit of a tight fit to fit in the case.
Fits pretty good in my US made CoCo 2.
Okay, cool.
So,
Thanks for sharing that. We'll have to get you to do some demos on it at some point in a future show.
yeah, I demo it every Thursday. Everyone should come and see it.
No, I mean some of the extra features like the sprites and tiles and sound, etc.
Ah.
Okay, next up. This was a pretty interesting one that I actually grabbed out of the Discord. Now, Discord sucks for sharing things. I have to actually copy stuff out, and luckily this was just a link, so I could actually directly link to it to show you guys here. But this is something I've been clamoring for quite a while, not having a Vectrix myself, but I've always wondered, we've seen what a 6309 can do in a CoCo 1, 2, or 3, when it's used in place of a 6809. And in this case, Professor Pierre Johansson is actually installed the 6309 into a Vectrix, which of course is the vector video-based arcade system from the early 80s, and the only vector home-based arcade system that I know of. And he's been rewriting the ROMs, because the ROMs are a bunch of routines for calculating how to draw the lines using vectors. Because unlike a raster, which just does a scan across the screen that goes on the next line, draws the next line 50 or 60 times per second, depending on your video. This actually draws everything directly. It just literally, the beam goes, if you draw a 45-degree angle, it draws, the beam moves at a 45-degree angle. So you get, super precise lines with no jaggies, etc. So what he's done here is he's taken the 609 and put it in, which immediately should help cool down the inside. And my understanding is the Vectrix can get a little bit warm because it's got the whole, vector thing and CPU and everything encased in one little box. And then he's been rewriting the ROMs to do the drawing vector routines using 609 native mode. So he's got a little bit of a screenshot here, just kind of showing the title page where he changed it to say HD639 instead of the standard Vectrix thing. And he's going to be doing progress reports. He's been working on this since August of this year, August 22nd. And he's put in a little video here. Now, I don't know if the full screen on this is going to work properly. So I might have to leave it small, but I'll try. You guys let me know if it just goes blank or does something stupid. But he actually runs it to compare Scramble, the official arcade game port Scramble, which is now running with 609, some optimizations for native mode, etc. And he mentions one of the things that it does do, it scrolls from right to left. Now, if you watch a 609 version, when it's drawing the terrain, you'll see it do it like a block, like maybe half an inch or an inch in one shot, and then drag the screen and then draw the next chunk. So you get a little bit of a black gap, and then it redraws the next. The 609, because it has some extra headroom to work with, it actually keeps it drawing smooth. So you don't get this jump where it shuts off and turns on, and shuts off and turns on the lower right corners where you'll most likely see it. So I'm going to play it. Can you guys see that, or is it...
Yep. Yeah, looks great, Curtis.
Okay.
A little jumpy, but yeah.
Stop starts.
Yeah, it's doing that here too. I don't know why it's doing that. So I don't know if you can see it here. I don't know if you can see my cursor either, but if the left one is a 639, I believe. And if you look in the lower right where the train's being drawn, you'll see it blinks on a chunk at a time. On the 639 one on the right, it actually just smoothly draws it because it has the extra overhead to calculate the lines. I'm just going to back it up just a tad.
Are you playing this direct from Discord?
No, this is directly from the guy's website.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, much smoother on the display lists. Very nice.
Yeah. And he hasn't actually tackled like the full 609. Like he's using native mode, but he's not using a lot of the extra features that could make it run even faster. So I'm really interested to see where he's going. I know he's been modifying the ROMs themselves. And some of them actually, because some of the games have been written with a very precise timing based on CPU timing, that some of them get completely thrown off. But there's others that basically use the ROM routines for the most part. And because he's tweaked those already for 50 or 60 hertz, depending, it runs actually better, like in this particular case here. But he did mention there's some others that don't run all that smooth. And then he's also, it fixes some other problems here too. Like he talks about the gap, and these are mystery gaps is what they call. part of the BIOS, the ROM that he's been modifying here with the draw VLP routine. So you'll notice here, if you can see it, see that little gap on the right-hand side of these shapes? Just that little black where the lines don't quite connect on the three, I don't know what you call those shaped stars or whatever.
Mines.
Yeah,
Sure.
those are mines.
Yeah, it's labeled, like I couldn't read that. So anyway, you see the gap there. Oh, here, I can zoom it up. Look at that. You can see the little points anyway. And now the 6 around with the extra processing time, they're gone. They're absolutely smooth. So
so it's fixed the timing of the start and the stop of the vector draw because you control it directly in the chip, and you have to kind of fake it and fudge it from time to time to get it to work. So you kind of just say, well, it's good enough if it starts kind of here and ends kind of there. I can tell what the shape is, but you're out of CPU time, so you can't really mess with something else because you need to get on with controller reading or whatever.
Yeah.
But when you've got a little bit more processor, you can have it actually stop on the dime you want it to. That's awesome.
Yeah. I was pretty impressed.
It's a gorgeous machine, and putting the 6309 in it is, yeah, I'm with you, Curtis. It's like, why hasn't this been going on all along?
Yeah. It's like putting one in a CoCo 1 or 2, right, Ken?
Go ahead.
I was just going to say to Ken Waters here, it's like putting one in a CoCo 1 or 2. Exactly right.
Exactly.
I'm really looking forward to see where else he's going to go with this project here. Because he mentions here in his little blog, he did some tests on Mindstorm, Berserk, and Spinball, and that's when we started discovering that some things hard-coded the timing based on CPU speed. Others relied on the ROMs. He's fixed the ROMs for the most part, so basically anything that is straight ROM called. But some of the more complex games definitely had timing. Those you'll have to tweak the ROM of the game cartridge itself. But, just from looking at the results he's had so far from briefly fiddling with it here, he's getting some pretty good results. I'm really looking forward to, where this will go. And because it will actually run cooler inside the case, like I know, Boat, you might be able to tell me, because Aaron has an actual Vectrex, but his was needed to get fixed at Boat Fest.
The power switch was broken. That was what was wrong with it. There wasn't anything wrong with it.
Oh, wasn't anything with the heating or capacitors.
Yeah, but Frank did suggest replacing of certain capacitors, which I don't believe he had with him at the time. But it was definitely playable because I fired that bad boy up and played it all weekend.
Yeah, that's cool. Because I hadn't seen a Vectrex in person since they were sold brand new. That was the first time I'd seen one in probably 35 years.
We need a emulator on the CoCo 3 to emulate the Vectrex. And the Vectrex
on CoCo 3 that might be possible, actually.
Yeah,
that would be amazing.
Because if it's the same CPU, it's like the transcodes Glenn Hewlett's been doing for 6 out of 9 Williams games, right?
Your screen layout is going to be a problem.
Well, it's vector based. So you have to write a really, really fast optimized line drawing routine.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'd worry about fading the
You're talking 16, or you're talking a 4x3 screen on a CoCo versus the tall vector graphics screen on the Vectrex. So you're going to end up with a squashed image if you do it.
Yeah, or you write the line driver to scale.
Yeah, you scale it
and just
to
skip
be.
the sides.
Yeah, you're gonna scale it, but it's going to be squashed.
Turn your monitor on side.
Sideways.
Yeah, there you go. Problem solved. Anyway, a really, really cool project. I'm definitely going to try to keep an eye on this page and see what other updates done. Like his last update was literally just a couple days ago when he uploaded that video of Scramble. So, speaking of Glenn Hewlett of Transcode fame, Glenn's newest weblog just dropped too this week. And this explains how to use the streaming feature of the CoCo SDC where you can stream extremely large files. And he's included a library of assembly routines that you can actually use to do that, so you don't have to write all this stuff yourself. Because he did mention he went through the original manual describing it and things didn't quite work the way he expected. And then he got some help with Tim Lindner and Ed for figuring out what he wasn't understanding properly. And maybe the manual should be changed a little bit to reflect some of what he discovered here. But he's got a little library you can actually download and you don't have to write everything from scratch type thing, and explains that you can make files that are quite large. Also explains some limitations that are not mentioned in the manual. These two I did not know about. There's a minimum file size of at least 79,360 bytes. If the file that you're trying to stream is any less than that, like say a small sound sample, it doesn't do anything. It won't open the file. It won't do nothing. So that would be something to bang your head against if you didn't know about it. And the other limitation, the file must be padded to a 512 byte boundary because it's basically doing raw sectors. And if it isn't that, then it won't stream either. So there's some definite limitations you have to be aware of when you're doing it. But you can download the actual library here. Cool. And give some sample code and explains how it works and stuff. So that would be awesome. This is the way to get Dragon's Lair ported to the CoCo. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's got to be faster to read straight from the CD than to go through an emulated disk and yada yada. Right?
Yeah. And this thing auto increments through, and it's not even MMU tied. Like basically, you just point it to like a 2 gig video file you want or whatever. That's probably exaggerating. You probably wouldn't do one that size, but you could. And then you basically just say, start giving me bytes, and it'll just basically throw a byte at you every time you load it, or 2 bytes at a time. And then you can interleave like the demo program Ed did, which interleaves graphics and sound. And he did some 20 frame per second music videos that he actually ran on the CoCo 1 and 2 at that speed using this technique. So definitely glad that Glenn figured it out and has released the library so people can actually give it a shot. Next up, Alan's been a busy boy again this week. The first one here is a blog post he wrote about a program he wrote for, and you can see the name on the screen, for Laverne Ricks. And this is when Alan had just moved to Lufkin, Texas, just finished graduating high school, and made paper route files. So this person, Laverne, had a really large paper route, and she needed to keep track of like who was actually supposed to get papers and who's not supposed to get papers. Unlike the Paperboy game, I don't think you just huck them through the window and smash them in, which unfortunately did sound more fun. But basically, he kind of goes to the history of developing that program for. It was based on some earlier work he did for his cassette-based BBS that he used to run, and he kind of goes through, how he got everything set up and the history of the project. Unfortunately, he did go try to find, since he discovered this again, to find Laverne, and unfortunately, she passed away a few years ago. So, but interesting, kind of going into his history. But I'm doing this little program for basically a neighbor back in just after he graduated high school. And then the other thing he's been doing is he's been working with a Chat GPT AI, which is hopefully one of you guys has had a bit of experience. I know it was covered by The Verge and some other big tech magazines online about this chatbot thing that basically has got a lot of AI tied into it, and then you can throw it all kinds of things and it actually responds fairly well some of the time, most of the time. And he actually threw in some 609 assembly language code at it, and he threw in some basic code at it. There's 2 separate blog posts on that. And it actually had some accuracy figuring out on its own what the program did. I've never seen it before. Like he did a little assembly thing here. We basically did a clear screen routine. And then it says the clear subroutine in this code is used to clear the screen, initialize it with a grid of green squares. So it actually did figure out, just from looking at 609 source code, kind of what that little routine does, which is pretty fascinating bit of AI there. And then on the basic one, he did a quick little number guessing game that he had written on the CoCo way back when, and it kind of figured most of that out on its own too. It's not always accurate. He did have some other stuff he mentioned on Facebook where it did misinterpret some things, but that's pretty impressive. And I mean, how far away where you can actually give it the description of what you want it to do, and it'll generate the code instead of the other way around? Is the question. And then Nick and I are out of jobs.
Yeah, there's a big fight with that on GitHub's Copilot. That is an AI that you kind of start typing a piece of code and it'll suggest and finish chunks of it for you. And people have found that the set that it was trained on contained code that was not licensed to be freely available. And there's been a little bit of hot water going on with that. But the experiments continue. And recently there was a reuse of that same Copilot AI as a command line guesser, where you could start to type a command and the Copilot AI would finish out all the command for you typed in on the command line. So yeah, that stuff is actually kind of already here, and there are a lot of ramifications and questions that are swirling around since it dropped.
So you obviously know a bit more about this than I do. I just know from what Alan was mentioning here. Is this just some sort of like web front end that you just send it stuff for it to try to figure out, or you try to have a conversation with? Like, how does this thing work?
Chat GPT, I don't know. But some of them are they're APIs that you call, and you then wrap that into your integrated development environment or your command line, so that it takes what you're sending, sends it off to the model. The model makes its reply, sends you back a packet of info, and then you decide whether you want to use it or not. And there are some that are now being tied into like mobile applications and stuff like that. So it's getting more and more pervasive. But fundamentally, it's an API that you call that is making a request packet to a giant farm that has been trained on a large data set to the point where it seems to be able to generate reasonable output based on whatever the inputs are.
Okay. Because actually, I'm just rereading the basic blog post here, and actually, this is one where he asked the question, "Can you write a guess the number game in basic?" And it returned a basic guessing number game, as well as a kind of description up here. So actually, it is writing its own code, and that's the code it generated there. So that's pretty impressive. I mean, you probably can't say make Centipede, and it'll do it for you, but
that's next year. They've already got it trained to play Centipede to win, and that training model would be part of the input to a game making AI. Yeah.
Cool. That's even more impressive than I thought then, or further along than I thought anyway. Wow.
Soon humans will no longer be needed.
Roll word.
Untrue.
Well,
the fun
more
part
code you
is,
feed it, the more accurate it's going to get.
And realize that all the press you're seeing has cut out all the blooper reel. And the blooper reel would be like when Microsoft put their chat AI on the web, and within a day, the web had corrupted it to the point they had to take it down for good.
Oh, yeah, it loved Hitler and stuff, didn't it?
Yeah, it became like racist and anti-Semitic.
Yeah, so there is some, and there's also scientists talking about what happens when robots come in contact with humans, and the robots have to follow the rules and the humans don't. And that started up a lot here recently with these auto-driving cars. So this same process works with these auto-driving cars, is they've been fed these huge sets of data about sensors and situations and things like that, and ground out models that contain these appropriate outputs. And then the robot follows the law, and so it can't get on the freeway because it's waiting for the appropriate distance and speed and things like that. Meanwhile, humans are just cutting it off because they don't have to follow the law. And
that sounds like humans.
Yeah, there's a robot in Japan that learned to avoid children and hide by their parents, because whenever the robot was left alone with the children would then basically abuse it. And so on the security cameras, after a while, they realized this robot prototype was following these children's humans around so that the parent would keep the robot from getting abused. So yeah, we're a long way from some things, and we're already there on others. And these kinds of systems, there's a lot of people that are like, is that code that's auto written? Who really owns it? Does the model itself own it, and how does that work legally? Or does it have to be all released? So yeah, we've got the technology. We just and we can abuse it. We just don't know exactly how we can use it in the long run.
Yeah, because what you got to do now is you got to teach a robot morals, basically, and then whose morals get taught.
Give it 50 years. They'll be taken over by then.
I don't think it'll take that long.
Or we'll just train it all on our brain after Google lets us upload it, because they promised to do that in 50 years, about 10 years ago. So we got about 40 years left, and then all of our brain patterns can be used to just finish training the robots. And there's a really fun thought experiment called Rocco's Basilisk, where the AI then decides who lives and who dies based on who helped it learn. And if you're the kind of person that avoids teaching the AIs things, you might be on a future target list that you don't quite know about yet because it doesn't exist yet.
I just got to make my own AI to combat the other AI. That's right.
So what you're saying is we've learned how to abuse AI, but we haven't learned how to use AI.
Aaron in the chat says, teach the robots morals. The heck with that. Let the robots rule us like kings. And my answer to that is, have you ever watched Terminator?
Yeah. The guys that run into the Skynet camp, I don't know. Let me know how that goes.
Anyone ever see the movie Transcendence?
Oh, you must be the other guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Johnny Depp that starred in that. Anyway.
Correct.
Yeah, so he had like terminal cancer, so he like scanned his brain into a computer and it gained access to the web and augmented his abilities and tried to take over the world. It was great. So that means in the future, all we have to do is like have our brains scanned by a computer, and our consciousness can live on the internet forever. We'll have immortality.
As long as you pay all the content licensing fees.
Yeah.
That exists. There is a very funny video out there.
As long as you pay the hosting fees.
That too. But
I'm
there's like,
absolutely
welcome
going to
life.
hate the lawyer AI when it's born. I can tell already.
Yeah, that's the video that I'm talking about, is this Welcome to Life 1.0. And it's like, you've had an accident and we've uploaded your brain. Now let's get you all set up in your new existence. Oh, hey, you've got all these songs in your memory. Would you like to pay a big fortune to relicense them? Oh, no? Okay, we'll delete those. Oh, do you want to have the premium channel? Well, no, I guess not. So we'll just cover the sky in occasional advertising. It's a hilarious video. I'll try to find that and put that on the Discord somewhere.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic and a little bit scary at the same time. Or after hearing you guys talk, a lot scary at the same time. Anyway, on to more pleasant things. So we have a couple of updates for the Cocoa Pie project from Ron Klein. So there's the newest version of XRoar, which is the 1.2.719 work in progress package. And since Karen is actually in the chat, he can mention exactly what all has been updated there. And also it includes the new MAME 0.250 package, which includes the Ag Vision, the Elanco Ag Vision that Terry was hinting at earlier. Tim Litter's actually put that in. It was also part of his video when he was actually writing a server to simulate it, as well as the regular Radio Shack video text terminal. So those are now emulated MAME. You can fiddle with those on the Cocoa Pie as well. And we'll see if Kieran mentions anything. I know one thing Kieran mentioned in Discord is due to complaints from several people, including myself, about the default behavior when you're loading a disk image, that any writes you do to it get lost as soon as you quit XRoar. And I've actually edited code on the thing, and in one case I edited it for several hours, and then when I quit, it was gone, which none of the other emulators do. And I do understand a little bit of Karen's approach. He wants to make sure you didn't accidentally corrupt your disk file. Personally, I just back it up before I'm going to fiddle with it, but I'm actually programming on that thing. You know, I want it to keep the changes. So I don't know if that's what this particular work in progress is for, because he did mention he's going to change the behavior a bit, so you can actually save it as a default that will save the disk image when you exit. So Karen, pipe up in the chat there and let us know if that's what this one is, or is this something totally different? Next up, Floyd Resler, who was very active in the CoCo community in the early 90s. He did a ton of games for OS9, Nitrous 9, several of which are on EOU. In fact, his Space App game is going to be a new one on EOU 1.0.0. But he actually had this interesting question he posted on the CoCo Facebook group, and he was asking for responses, and he's had over 50 now. And says, I'm curious as to how everyone got their first color computer. For me, it was when I was in college. I was looking at the Commodore 64 and the color computer. The deciding factor for me was that I could use a standard cassette player to save and load programs. With C64, I had to buy this special cassette player. So then he starts asking, what everybody else's experience, like, why did you get the CoCo at first? And for some people, why did you get the CoCo later? Because you might have had something else first. So rather than read all 50 responses here, I thought I would just poke the panel here and see if anybody wants to relay the story as to why they picked the CoCo as their machine.
Mine is listed at the bottom of the screen there. See that?
Okay. Now, for the audio listeners who can't see that,
oh,
what
audio
would you say?
I'll read it if you want. But yeah, I noticed my response is listed there.
Okay, and what was your response basically? Just like I said for the audio listeners.
Yeah, well, yeah. So basically, I'll summarize what I wrote there. Basically, I really wanted a I really wanted a home computer back in 1983, and I really wanted one really bad. So I started saving up my money to buy a TI 99 4A, which were going really cheap at the time because they were discontinuing the computer, and so they had like liquidation sales, right? So I was like, hey, I can afford one of those. And so I started saving up money. And my parents tried everything they could to like dock my allowance and stuff like that for the slightest infractions to try to prevent me from saving up enough money to get one. And so then December rolled around and I was like, you know what? Christmas is coming up soon. Why don't I just hold off until after Christmas? Who knows what'll happen, right? So sure enough, on Christmas morning, there was a nice, bright, shiny new Tandy Color Computer 2 with 16K of memory, and I was really excited. It was not the TI 99 4A that I wanted to get, but I think my parents probably bought the computer from Radio Shack earlier, and that's why they were preventing me from saving up enough money, was because they already got me a computer. And my father wisely chose the color computer because, well, first of all, unlike the TI 99 4A, it wasn't being discontinued. And so he thought it would be better to get a computer that actually was going to stick around for a while and was supported by a national or nationwide chain of retail stores, and that there would be much better support for it and so on. And yes, good decision on my father's part, but that's basically why I got a color computer. It was my father's decision, really. But he chose wisely.
You were well served by that decision. I bought a 99 4A for $100. I ended up using its keyboard on my ZX81 before I bought my CoCo.
Yep.
That's what the 99 4A was worth to me. You couldn't do anything with it. You couldn't expand it. You couldn't afford anything of it. The thing for $100, that's all I could do. I couldn't afford another single thing for it ever. So,
yeah, in my case, I'd gotten used to using the PET in '79, and then the Apple II in 1980 at school, and they were selling off the PETs for dirt cheap, $150 they were selling them for, but there was only two that they'd been rotating around schools, and by the time I finally convinced my mom and dad to help chip in, because I had been saving allowance up for any computer myself during that time period from paper roads, and the two were already gone, so I didn't get that. And the Apple II was like, say, $1,700-$1,800 Canadian, so there's no way in hell I was getting that. So I was looking at around like what else is available, and I wanted to get color and sound. So the VIC-20 had just come out, the CoCo 1 was out, and the Atari was out. Now the Atari was still pretty expensive that time, and I wanted a non-membrane keyboard, so the 400 was out, so the 800 was like $1,000 American. I think it was $1,300-$1,400 here. So that was out of my range. That was basically almost as expensive as the Apple II was. So the CoCo, I went in the store, and the keyboard just, it was okay. At least it had keys that went down, but it wasn't the greatest keyboard. And the green screen honestly was not attractive for me when I first saw it. What sold me on it was the price was fairly good, and it was a little bit more expensive than the VIC-20 at the time. But the basic manual, because the Radio Shack managers left the basic manual out beside the demo machine, and I went in there and I saw there was like sound commands and play commands and circle commands for drawing graphics. And then when I checked out a VIC-20, and it said poke this, poke that, and generally not as good of a basic, and I had no idea what assembly language even was at that point, never mind how to use it. So that wasn't the fact that 689 was superior to 6502 was not in my headspace at all either. But just the basic is what sold me. The extended basic, which I didn't end up getting off the bat because I couldn't afford it. But knowing that I could upgrade to that later, that's what sold me on it. The basic was really, really, really good, and it was one of the cheapest machines with color and sound.
Yeah, we're lucky. The our CoCos have one of the best versions of BASIC out there, I think, for 1980s era home computers. And not only was the BASIC superior to others, but the manuals that that came with the computer were extraordinary. They were outstanding. It was easy to learn BASIC using those manuals they provided, which was awesome.
Yeah, I totally agree. That is the best, still the best BASIC manual I've seen that came with a computer.
Yeah, really. Tandy bought everything. We had the graphics extensions, we had the disk extensions, we had everything Microsoft could write, and I loved it. It kept me in the CoCo for.
Also, before I forget, Karen did answer about the version of Xor that's included with the update to CoCo Pi. He says, I think that snapshot is mostly fixes data DOS and illegal instructions. It does not include the disk write back change that'll be coming in a future one. Anybody else have any little mini stories as to how they ended up picking the CoCo?
Well,
Go ahead, Ron.
Ron on first, then Terry.
77, 78, I was looking at Radio Shack window, and looking at the Model 1. It was expensive, and I couldn't afford it, but I went in, I played on the keyboard. I was pretty much hypnotized, I wanted that sucker. But it didn't really happen. My brother-in-law got a VIC-20 in, I think, 82, and the way it loaded, it was so slow, and it was kind of, crappy, and it was expensive too still. So right at that time, I think 82, 83-ish, the MC10 came out. So I snagged one of those, and I played with it, and I made a whole bunch of tapes, and then I finally got a Model 1 CoCo from my wife's boss. He sold me the TV behind me there, and the disk drive, and the silver CoCo with multi-pack, and a printer, line printer 7, the whole thing with a box of floppies. It was great. And that guy was in the future, he had sportswear, and
okay.
yeah. So anyway, so that's how I got my first CoCo, and I went on from there. But one interesting thing is I never really stopped a CoCo. After all these years, I've always had one set up. I've always used one. So I've never had the ability to say, if it wasn't for CoCoTALK, or if it wasn't for Rainbow, or if it wasn't for whatever, that I went back into CoCo, because I never really left it all these years. All of these years.
I cut mine back, but I always did have one set up here, even when I was not doing active development and just running my webpage. The same thing. I always had it up and running for nostalgia on a weekend.
Just recently, I remember running across a couple of CDs that have compilations of some of my CoCo programs, and I'm trying to think in my mind. I said this last week, I think, why I had those specific programs in a group when they didn't have any rhyme or reason. And if you think of it, back in the day when we went online, or if we traded programs, you would get what you think was cool at the time, and it didn't include a lot of stuff. It just was haphazard, selections of games and applications. And it turns out that some of that was because, you went online and you spent hours downloading with X modem, Y modem, whatever, and putting all your programs together. And and really in the beginning, I was never, when I saw the VIC-20, that was it for me. I didn't care for it. But I've never been exposed to, I've never seen an Apple run. I've never seen, I think a friend had a TI 99, and he had a huge table with everything
with all the
going
expansion
to the
cards on the
left,
side.
to the right,
It's like a Sinclair except sideways.
Yeah. And I just, I've never seen other machines. I joined a CoCo club, and I was always CoCo. Everything was CoCo. There was really no other machines. Every once in a while somebody would talk about one, like they do here, C64s, and I've joined a couple of the groups just to see what they're doing, but and I have no I don't need think I even go have joined an Apple group because I just have no interest in Apple whatsoever. Sorry, just don't. That's
Cool.
it for me.
Terry, you said you had a story too.
Well, I mine's more of a reason, I guess, why we got it. Living in a pretty rural area, Radio Shacks were, the only thing really around. We had one other computer store, it was about 60 miles away, but I'll be honest, they were kind of arrogant jerks whenever we'd go in there. The Radio Shack guy, my dad, he was big into electronics and, building stuff, soldering stuff. So they were awesome to us. They would talk. I had tons of questions about, what the heck is this thing? We had a Model 1 and our school had Model 1s and Model 3s. Well, they scrapped the entire computer lab and got Apples. And the janitor was good friends with my dad, and he gave us all of that gear. So I was trying to figure out how to make Model 1 drives work on my CoCo, which, worked fine. So anyway, that's kind of why I got into the CoCo, was more through my dad, and I have really good memories of him and I doing those things together. So
cool. That's neat.
For me, I
Dumpsters
had the
on-
choice
that's why I'm on
between
the dumpster show.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
Okay, go ahead, James. You're on a bit of a delay compared to the rest of us, so. I know
Oh,
it's kinda
okay.
hard.
I basically had I wanted an Atari. Yeah, I mean, let's face it, Star Raiders, but I wanted the 800 and it was ridiculously expensive. No way I was ever going to get that. And I wanted something with a good basic language. And my choices were VIC-20 or color computer, really, at that time.
Yep, same as me.
And extended color basic won hands down over anything. And the VIC-20 had a 22 column screen. The 32 on the CoCo is bad enough.
That was a big improvement. I just want to mention 60 in the chat here says, my granddad bought one as I'd shown interest in the BBC micros making their way into schools, I think. And likewise, and I never really stopped using them, kind of like Ron mentioned or myself. And he said the RC forums and CoCoTALK have certainly helped talk about them, though.
I'll throw in my story. Some people have heard it. So I'm an Apple snob. So I bought an Apple IIe.
I'm sure there's treatment for
An
that now,
apple.
Mark.
You have an apple.
Yeah, well, the amount of you guys that own apples now, well, we won.
I don't have one,
Anyway.
so you didn't win, or I didn't lose.
Yes, you do. You got a Mac.
Never surrender.
Yeah, those Macintoshes are apples, even if they're just the predecessor.
Yeah.
Okay, but anyway, so I actually got into the CoCo because I got a Apple IIe Platinum system from a guy in 2012, and it had the Apple IIe Platinum, a couple drives, and a monitor and a printer, and a CoCo 3 new in box. And so it's like, well, I'm not really into Radio Shack stuff. But then I realized, this has got the Motorola chip in it, and because that's kind of the predecessor to the 6502, at least the 6800, said I'll keep this. Well, since then I've gotten 4 CoCo 2s, another CoCo 3, 2 CoCo 1s, and a Piano Dragon. So
yeah, and the original prototype Mac by Jeff Raskin was a 6809 too. So
yeah, it was. So
Must have them all.
In defense of having a Mac, being an Apple, I would have to say it's because I hate Windows even more than I hate Apple. So I'm just kidding.
I went with Windows because, well, that's where all the applications were and the people, and then went to OS 2, and then Apple killed or Windows killed that. Microsoft. I'm still unhappy with them, by the way.
Yeah. OS 2 was actually pretty decent considering.
When I got my first MS-DOS machine was a Tandy 1200 HD, and it was DOS. There was no Windows on it, so I learned DOS pretty good. And I must say that was the start of many MS-DOS machines, and then Windows machines. I think I started with 3.1, and then but I've always had a color computer to the side, or I couldn't really afford some of the programs for MS-DOS stuff, because they were expensive, and it didn't belong to a group to get programs free or anything. And there was a lot of free shareware and stuff that you could download, but it was pretty mundane, and was CGA or what Hercules cards then and stuff, so it was monochrome. And color computer was color, so that kept my attention going, even though I had MS-DOS machines, in the beginning.
Yeah. I think my highlight is when we had our super system at work with 8 terminals hooked up, which are mostly like ADMs and their Zieglers and Videotech or VT100, etc. But actually, one of our terminals was a 386. It was a terminal on the CoCo 3, so that was fun.
For me, they told me that you write games on this, you'll be rich, you'll be a millionaire. So that's how I got my CoCo, and well, they lied. So I've spent the last 40 years trying to make up for it. I reckon another 40, maybe.
It might pay for itself.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else got a quick story, or should I go on to the next news item?
Well, if you're going to twist my arm, I can give a quick synopsis.
Of the arm twist.
Yeah, Christmas '84, I got a Commodore Plus 4 because my parents loved me so much. And then summer.
You sure about that?
If you knew the Plus 4 in America, you'd know. Then summer of '85, I got myself an Atari 800 and used them, and went from them to the Amiga, Macintosh, PC, and then all the way in 2009, 2010, when the Donkey Kong transcode was released, a friend of mine gave me a CoCo 3, and that sat here unused until 2 years ago, last month, and I started using the CoCo in September of 2020, and haven't looked back at anything but an Atari and a CoCo since.
Cool. I did want to mention one of the replies on the web here. Joanne Donaldson's actually been on the show probably a year or two ago. So I got my CoCo when they were still breakout cases, CoCo 1. I used my CoCo until the CoCo 3 came out. I bought my CoCo 3 because I was working at NASA JSC, and a lot of the engineers liked the CoCo 3. And then he started using OS 9 on it. I'm guessing the engineers probably did that too. So that's kind of cool. It has a bit of a NASA connection in his case, or her case.
That's cool to hear.
Yeah.
Oh, and side note, the Plus 4 was not a cut-down VIC-20. The Plus 4 was the greatest Commodore ever made since the Amiga. Sorry.
There just wasn't a lot of software
Didn't
for
it
it.
come out before the Amiga?
Yes, it did. It was actually released in '84, and because it was such a big flop, because they sold it as a replacement for the Commodore 64, and it wasn't a replacement for the Commodore 64, by January they went from $400 to $100 in clearance places, and then eventually, because no one in the U.S. would buy them, they were sent over to the Eastern European area and sold at great discount, where they became very popular.
I really like the Plus 4. It's probably the closest to the CoCo of any of the Commodores.
Yeah. I've actually got one that's signed by Bill Hurd himself.
Cool. For those that don't know, Bill Hurd pretty much
He was
did most of the design.
Yeah, he was the principal designer of it.
And the C-128.
Yep, and I've got a C-128 with his signature also.
Well, it's pretty hard to have a computer succeed when the magazine's reviewers are the ones that are saying that it's a replacement for the C64 and it's not as good and all that kind of crap. It's just...
Well, I mean, it wasn't just them. That was around the time that Trammell had left Commodore, and Trammell had other ideas for it, but he didn't share those ideas with the people that were staying. It was supposed to be a replacement for the B128, the business computer. So.
Anyway, if any of the rest of you want to share any memories along that line too, you can actually hit the Facebook poster that Floyd put up and kind of respond there too. Like I said, there's been over 50 responses already. We've had some responses here on the show as well.
Yeah.
It's just kind of interesting to see how different people got into it for what reasons and what time period. CoCo 1, CoCo 2, CoCo 3. Did they get it during the day when they were being sold at Radio Shacks? Did you get into them afterwards, part of retro computing in general? So it's an interesting topic. We could literally go on for hours on this, and I don't want to subject the audience to that. So,
Are you saying asparagus?
yes. Next up, Antonio Caballero has actually, we've seen some of these, like we showed the video that Tim Linder had posted up about assembling his program pack duplicate boxes being flat printed out. Antonio here has done a remastered box template for the Direct Connect modem pack box here. So if your modem pack box is damaged and you have the facility to print it, you can download this, I don't know what you call it, a schematic, I guess. That's not the right term, but basically you can actually print it out and you can actually reduplicate it. And if you get a die cut in the proper spots there, you can actually duplicate the box and have it looking just like the brand new one from back in the day. And that's something I'm not sure if the other computers are doing that as much. I know there's a lot of eBay sales that if you've got the original packaging in really good shape, the price goes up because it's a collectible type thing. Personally, I'm not a collector style thing. I prefer to use stuff. So I wouldn't mind replacing some really, really damaged boxes with a replacement like this. I'd be perfectly fine than trying to hunt down an original and paying some exorbitant price for it. I'm just wondering what you guys are. You guys on the collector side of things where it has to be the original, or are you perfectly fine with duplications of original boxes?
Yeah, that stuff got thrown out.
Oh, you didn't keep the boxes at all, so you have no tie to them at all.
Yeah, it got like the cartridge boxes, all of that. Though that type of stuff got thrown out, so it's.
It'd be cool. It's if he misspelled something on the box.
But the important thing is you need the foam inner to make this worthwhile. So it's a valid thing. It means you have almost everything if this box is useful at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see like the people opening up retro museums and stuff that are showing off some of this old stuff. If they can't find a decent quality box for a certain hardware cartridge or maybe an actual computer itself, if you can make a duplicate that at first glance is looking exactly like the original, just to show what the history of that product packaging was, I think it would be worthwhile doing this kind of stuff. Personally, I'm like James, I didn't quite throw them out. I usually kept some of them out to get really damaged, but I don't collect them, so I don't really care if they're damaged or not.
I feel the same way.
I do try to collect them as much as I can. And
yeah, well, you're one of the, like you and Brian Weezer are collectors. I mean, you want the original, like this is the way it was sold in 1983 or whatever. Like that's part of
that sort of thing is really popular on some of the other computers. I know Atari and stuff like that, because some people, they want the boxed set and stuff.
Yeah, and it's hard to find. I mean, like you said, a lot of people got these. They got them for Christmas, throw the package out, and they got it to play, and I did too. But I guess it's more of a completist mentality for me at the moment.
Well, in my case, it was more or less. I kept the packages until I went to college, and then my mom decided to make my bedroom into an art room, and they got thrown out.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of addicts that made a lot of boxes disintegrate.
Yeah.
With the heat.
Waylon in the chat is saying it's good to show what this looked like new rather than yellowed and old, to get a history lesson that this old gear was the latest thing at one time and it looked exciting and new. And I think that's one thing a lot of the retro computer museums are starting to do, is trying to get some of this original packaging or duplications that are pretty well identical to the original, so that you can actually kind of get that feel. If you walked in a Radio Shack store in 1983, what would the shelves look like? Or with the little hangers with all the software on type thing.
In 30 years,
price stickers that said, there's 3 deep stuck on top of each other as the price.
Go ahead, Ron.
I just wonder, in 30 years, there's going to be 12 people that are interested in this stuff, and it's all
numbers are growing right now. That's the surprising thing. I mean, the retros.
Well, it isn't here. We don't have.
But didn't we have a news channel in Arizona we covered not too long ago that actually had some retro gathering? I thought that was in Phoenix or something. Wasn't too long ago, but they actually had it was making your local news that there was a retro group meeting that covered a bunch of things, including CoCo's.
Yeah, and I was going to say, did you see the attendance at VCF Midwest? That's the largest that it's been in ages.
Well,
The parking was.
What was the
up
video
to,
game one in Seattle? I mean, it was computers and video
The one
games.
that Tim and AJ were at?
Yeah, that was huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, parking for VCF Midwest.
So Ron,
is
I
a
think we're
half
just
mile away.
basically telling you have to move
Yeah.
somewhere where it's
You're in
more
the
popular.
wrong
Right.
place.
You're in the wrong place, man. You got the good weather, but
And that's the big but.
yeah, you can come up here to -30. It's fine.
Yeah. Then you'd be burning those boxes just to keep warm.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I have none left now. Remember?
Yeah, that's why you don't have them.
Okay, so this is a quick little video, Alderson Retro Computing, which we featured. He's done these little clips of how his computer career started with CoCo's, and he's now acquired an MC10, a CoCo 3, etc. But this is the first time he himself has appeared on camera, and he's just did a quick little blip. He's playing GFL Championship Football 2, as it was called in the CoCo version. I think it's just called GFL Championship Football and other machines, because Radio Shack already had original football cartridges, so they wanted to make sure the names were differentiated. So since we've never actually met him before, I thought we'd just play the 20-second clip in its entirety, and you can see GFL running in the background.
Hi, thought I'd introduce myself. This is my CoCo 3. It didn't look so bad for a computer that's almost 40 years old. Now, for me, I don't look so good. A little worse for wear.
And I think that's probably most of us on this panel. It was a nice matching a face to the voice, though, because we played a lot of his little clips here when he's covered some things, and I think he even covered like installing VCC and stuff too recently. But it's nice to have a face to match. It's one of the reasons I like our show being video. Next up, now this is pretty cool. So Vintage Geek on YouTube, and now they've covered some CoCo stuff before. He actually recently did some stuff where he's playing some of the CoCo 3 games like Microscopic Mission, etc. Now they're based in Knoxville, Tennessee, and they've actually got a Vintage Geek museum that they're currently building. And this is a video where they interview a couple of people that are helping set up the museum besides the main host of the show. But CoCos are prominently displayed, and he actually said that during the interview that he's used to using some of the CoCos and even some of the other TRS-80s on the Network 2 style controllers and stuff back when he was a kid. So I'll play a little bit of a clip here to kind of get an idea for it. My understanding is this museum's not open yet, but the very first exhibit that they're going to be setting up is setting up a classroom like it was back in the day.
Nice.
And I'm going to try, and Ken and I will talk about this, as CoCo Fest grows closer, that if I can manage to finagle some time extra off about maybe traveling down to see this, because it's not too far of a drive from Chicago compared to, driving from Saskatoon to Chicago. It's nothing. So.
I'm Aaron, welcome to Vintage Geek. Just a quick reminder, if you like vintage computers or discussing them, researching them, or perhaps visiting a museum about them, be sure to like and subscribe. It's going to help us a lot as we grow the channel and the Vintage Geek Museum.
Even saw
Speaking of
TDP
which,
going
we
by
haven't
there
had
at the
a
bottom.
trip to the Vintage Geek Museum here on the channel in a while, so I wanted to update everyone on the progress and what's going on. If you're familiar with the channel at all, you know that we're building a vintage computer museum here in Knoxville, Tennessee, to showcase a lot of the machines that we talk about on the channel regularly, and to give people an experience to have a hands-on opportunity to use some of these vintage machines. And we're really excited about this. It's a lot of work and a long project ahead of us. We've made some significant progress, and one of our first exhibits that we've been working on is the classroom exhibit. Computers were so instrumental to the classroom in the days that I was growing up, and it's really a lot of the reason that I have the sentimental feelings toward vintage machines. Being able to sit down and use some of those classic programs in the classroom was really a great way to learn and made it a lot more fun and interesting, and certainly made me interested in computers in general. So I'm hoping to share that feeling with the guests that come to the museum, give them a little bit of nostalgia for the old days, but also learn about how some of those systems worked, the evolution of computers over time in the classroom, and an opportunity to sit down and use some of these machines as well. So I'm here at the official welcome sign to our computer lab here at the Vintage Computer Museum. We're going to take a step inside and kind of see how this is coming along. When it comes to taking on a project like creating a vintage computer museum, it truly takes a team. We've been very lucky to assemble a really great team so far. One of our team members is Sally McCracken. Sally is our collections manager. She is also our exhibit designer. I know that when we first had the discussion, we talked about creating the kind of classroom environment that you might experience as a kid. Tell me a little bit about your process and kind of, putting the design together.
I approached this from two different
Yeah, I won't play the whole interview, but it's got some interesting stuff in there, and they talk about some of their experiences of learning computers in school, what programs they used, etc. They mentioned some things like Rocky's Boots, which is one that's on the CoCo as well. But you notice how prominently the CoCos are being displayed on this. They've been panning by, and even the Tandy, blow up robot thing and stuff too. So I definitely would love to see this exhibit here because it definitely seems to be a bit more Tandy and CoCo focused than you probably would see in most computer museums. So once this exhibit is open, I'm hoping that if I can sneak it in after CoCo Fest, I would love to go down and check this out. So anybody else that's planning to go to CoCo Fest or is in that area, if we do make it down there, we'll have to arrange to all go down at the same time.
One of my CoCo Model 1s has a sticker on it from the Rochester school system. I have it posted on my Ron's Garage. It's interesting to see it, and it has a lot of wear on the front. It must have been used quite a bit at school.
Yeah, unfortunately, our schools here, we had Apple IIs or pets. There was one physics class that had a Model 1 tucked away in the back room. But other than that, it was nothing but that. And then when I went back to visit my school during one of the early reunions, it was all PCs by that point. So we didn't see any CoCos in schools there. Though I did bring mine to school multiple times because we used to have times where people brought in their own home machines. We'd get to compare and try everybody else's. Like I got to try TI-99s and VIC-20s and C64s and Atari 400, 800s and Model 1s and 3s and 4s, etc. It was a lot of fun. And we always had these, competitions of, who has the best version of Zaxxon, type of thing.
If anyone is interested in helping out the Vintage Geek Museum, Justin, one of the curatorial assistants, is also on the Discord and was talking about trying to get a BBS set up there to use as a guest book. So, if you see Justin handles Lonely Rolling Stars. If you see Lonely Rolling Stars asking questions about BBSing and serial ports and multi-packing and whatever else, try to pitch in on that and get that exhibit going even better.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, if you talk to him much, there maybe mention we should try to get him on the show. He can kind of talk about the museum and also the setup they're doing for the educational display, and maybe even what dates they're planning on being open to exhibit that to the public. Next up, Nick Brisovac. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but my apologies if I'm not. And he posted on Facebook here, including this photo here, but he says, I've been playing around with controllers again. The case is a 3D print of a macro keyboard design I came across on Thingiverse. It's been repurposed as a paddle gamepad style controller for the CoCo based on one of my previous builds. The directional keys are reversed. The 2 action keys are on the left, depending on which way the controller is used. And you can see the nice big paddle there, as well as the 4 arrow keys and the 2 red buttons. So this sounds like it would have been perfect for the game of the week here, Ken. Or Sloopy, for that matter.
Yeah, it does look like it was would be great for it. When I saw it, that's what I was thinking. But I was trying to understand what it means by the action keys are backwards.
I think he means that, like, normally when you have a T shape like that, you usually have the up arrow isolated on the top row, and he's got it kind of the other way around where the arrow's on the bottom. And I don't know if he's rewired it so that the up-down is opposite.
Yeah,
so that's the way you hold it, or what he's talking about here.
I would think that you'd use it the other way around so that your hand is coming from the non-dial side of it. But
because normally if you have a curve, like a flat edge on there on the top part where the keys are, and then the curved part, you normally would hold it the way it's oriented here, I would think.
Yeah. So if you're,
it's a bit of an odd design choice there, but I'd have to try it. I don't know.
Yeah, because if your palm's on the is on the dial, then yeah, that would be a bit odd.
This is kind of the weird design of that Brazilian CoCo that we saw.
Yeah, kind of reminiscent of that. A little bit, yeah.
Plastics were weird that way. That it didn't really make sense to me on that one either.
So it's an interesting design, and now that we've actually had some people interested in hooking up paddles as opposed to joysticks for certain types of games that only use the one axis, like any of the Arkanoid, Pong, Kaboom style games will all benefit from that kind of thing. In fact, if I remember, was War Kings? I think it just uses left and right to move around. I know Castleguard uses 4 directions, but And as been mentioned before, if you actually design some games to be single axis only, you could make a 4-player game. You can just have it diverge 2 off of each port, and then y-axis and x-axis can be separate controllers, literally.
A 4-player Warlords for the CoCo.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. Next, after that, another poll on Facebook in the CoCo group, this time put up by James Ross, and this was a fairly simple one. What was your next, and he mentioned 1632-bit computer, for daily use, work or play after the CoCo or other 8-bit computer? And now I would have fallen into the other category because the TC9 was my next one that I used, and that's just a CoCo with some enhanced hardware. But you can see that here that the x86 DOS Windows definitely ran away with over 60%. Second place was the Amiga, 17%, and then after that is the Atari ST. So people were sticking with Motorola for the most part, and then the 68K or PowerPC Apple Macintosh at 4%, and then Linux boxes x86 at 2%, 68K Linux boxes at 1%, and then other. So since we've got some panelists here, I was just going to ask what you guys went to.
Look at the time period kind of that you get the slice of here. The x86 DOS and Windows compared to an Amiga or an ST as the choice at that time. So the Mac in 84 was still monochrome. The DOS PC was basically CGA, maybe EGA garbage. Then you had the Amiga and the ST. All right. So yeah, everyone got PCs because they were trying to get jobs and deal with schoolwork. But anybody that actually had any sort of choice probably ran at the machines that actually looked more fun and more creative. So it took Apple a little bit further to get past where, I mean, there was a big fight for the Amiga and ST versus Apple stuff for a while there. So yeah. I mean, my next machine off this list would have been an Amiga. So
mine was an Amiga.
Mine was.
Yeah.
Mine was actually the DOS Windows box. I got a 386SX after. And that was after my TC9 took me right through until around 2000. Then I just picked up a used 386.
Yeah, mine was a DOS Windows box, but there was a gap because my CoCo, well, I stopped using my CoCo in 1992. And so for a while, I didn't even have a computer. I would borrow my father's laptop if I needed to, do anything on a computer. So I didn't get a new computer of my own until about 1998 when I got a used PC. So my choice, so my answer would have been x86 DOS Windows, but there was a gap in there where I didn't have my computer of my own. I just borrowed my father's
And that's a good point. It depends on when you exited. Like some people exited after the CoCo 2. They saw the CoCo 3 come out there. No, I want something a bit more powerful than that type thing. Some people did jump to the Amiga and ST at that point. In my case, we ran the CoCo 3 at work until the year 2001. So I was on CoCo solid right through up until that point. TC9 at home, which is a bit more advanced. But
when I was on the CoCo 1 and 2, and I saw the CM8 come out, it really made the CoCo 3 look like a, upstanding, awesome computer to get. And so, I mean, that was at least, because I didn't have any exposure to other stuff anyway, except PC stuff. And how many of you guys built PCs? I built hundreds of them, hundreds.
I built them at work, so I was kind of sick of doing that already. So
in my case, I was running a construction company on my CoCo 3 with Sculptor to do the taxman stuff and all of that. So I was kind of stuck there until I got my new job at a call center and they showered me with Unix, Linux things. So I never really did DOS. I mean, I played with it a little bit, but I never did anything serious on it because I needed the CoCo 3 for the stuff I already written. And then I moved straight into Unix.
I never remember installing different DOSes as they went along, up to 6.2?
Yeah, unless you went to Novell or DR DOS, which went past it.
Was it DOS 4 that had a little bit of an interface in there?
They had that mouse interface thing.
The executive, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yep.
Yeah.
DOS 4 is abomination.
I actually had to program something for that.
I never built my own PC, but I've heavily modified PCs. You know, added memory, added new hard drives, you know, added soundboards and you
Mhm.
know graphics boards and stuff. So I've done that. So
Yeah,
just short of building my own, I've heavily modified a few.
I can remember having a 486 DX100 in my hand, thinking, "Wow, this sucker's fast," you know, and putting it in, and you know, looking at the manual to set the jumpers right and everything, and turn it on, and then find video somewhere and play the video and see if it didn't jerk like the 386 did.
Right.
Yeah.
Or like me trying to stream off YouTube. Now,
I
this
went
is
from-
completely off topic here, but I want to get this in before it scrolls off. There's a question from a user in the chat named LS Dowdle. He says, I'm fairly new to your show here, but I'm a big Mr. FPGA user, and I'd like to get the CoCo 3 going on that. Any regular Mr. CoCo 3 users? I think, if I remember correctly, the CoCo 3 core's a little bit buggy at the current time. Is that correct? I don't have a Mr., so I'm just kind of going off memory here.
Roger Taylor is the one to contact, right?
Yeah, well, there's a free core that I think is a bit more primitive than Roger's got the commercial core that he actually charges a little bit of money for, if I remember correctly. And his is a lot more closer to the.
My advice would be to get onto the CoCo Discord and connect up with the FPGA and Mr. Crowd there, and be able to ask your questions back and forth more interactively. But if you use Roger Taylor's real CoCo core with the Mr. board, there is a Nitrous 9 port for it, and it works really well. Running the CoCo, CoCo 3 as an experience. There are some folks here in this show and that have been on the panel as well that have that. So back and forth in the show chat might not be the best way to try to answer the how-to questions that go with that, but the Discord would definitely be a good place for that. There is also a CoCo 3 FPGA group on groups.io that addresses much of the similar topics using a slightly different Altera board and Gary Becker's open core, which if it's slightly buggy, I haven't noticed it. So it's a really good experience as well. I really, really enjoy the FPGA version of a CoCo 3 in addition to the real hardware.
Okay. I was going to ask Boat, but I think he already took off for the day here because he's got a Mr. And I know the CoCo 1 and 2 core is pretty rock solid on it. The CoCo 3 one, unless you get Rogers, I think it's a little bit further behind. Currently, it's getting updated. All right, next up, a little bit of NC10 stuff here. So Jim Gary continues his Semigraphics Country Flag series. This time he's rendering the Chinese flag, and he has a bit of a political statement at the end here, which you can kind of see in the remarks here, that democracy always triumphs. So I'll play a little bit of that. And he's been doing a kind of series of these low-res, rendered flags of various countries here. So that's just his latest one. And then after that, Robert Sieg uploaded this. This is pretty cool. So his full-screen project, FSP, is that sprite package I was talking about earlier. We actually released a game that's based on it. But this here is the actual download for the actual package itself, including the source code. So 6 out of 3 source code is included. And he's even got a message to Kieran, who's in the chat here. Hope you can still take a look at the code. Maybe in time you can make something usable in many TerraCities that use the MC6847, the VDG chip. Any questions, let me know. So that's the one. It also mentions here the sprites and tile sizes it handles, which you use the Game Boy Sprite Generator software to create for. So 4x6, 8x8, 8x16, 16x16, and 32x32 pixels. So you can come grab that on the MC10 group on Facebook. And then next up after that, Daniel Tufbison posted on the MC10 Facebook group about his simpler 8K RAM upgrade for the MC10. Of course, the MC10 originally came with 4K. And he said basically it involves just replacing the RAM with a single chip, which is he labeled here as a 6264. It's not a chip I'm familiar with, but I'm not familiar with the MC10 in general. And a resistor to isolate the CPU address line 12 and the video address line 12 without any additional mux or gate. and he's got some pictures of it here. So he said that this seems to be a simpler version of the upgrade than he's seen other previously. Now, for you people that have some experience with the MC10 hardware, how does this sound to you guys?
I thought the piggyback method was slightly easier because you're just messing with chip selects, but this would be cooler because it's a newer RAM chip.
Okay, so what was the 6064, just a new manufactured, or?
Well, yeah, I can't remember which RAM chip's in it, but well, actually, I got one sitting here. You know.
Leave it to our panel. Just have an open MC10 lying around.
Yeah, it just replaces the 4K with an 8K.
Yeah, well, they're 2K. The chips are 2K, and there's 4K between the two of them. Yeah. And that's just one 8K chip, so it's going to be lower power and cooler. And the piggyback might interfere with the keyboard too. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. I have to say, he's got a really nice, clean photograph with even a bit of blurring the distance here of the zoom up of the board here. It's one of the best photos of an MC10 motherboard I've seen.
Yeah, the big thing with this says NEC on the chips, but the big thing with these are they're harder to find because it's a different pinout for 2K RAMs for the ones that's in the MC10.
Oh, okay. So I guess the jury's kind of out as to whether this is an easier upgrade to 8K than.
Well, I think there's more wires on this. Like I said, the other one, it's chip selects.
Okay.
And, you know.
Now, one thing I want to ask, since you actually know about this, James, I know one reason for doing the 8K upgrade is and with an additional bit of wiring, you can actually get the VDG to be able to see them. So you can actually use the higher modes, like P mode 3 and 4. What is he talking about here? Would that do that, or would that just leave it?
This will do that. This should
will.
do that.
Okay. So it's a way to get your P mode 3 and P mode 4 working on an MC10 as
The main thing is that if you look at the 6847, which is on the right there, he's got additional wires going to it for the, you see going to that capacitor or whatever. Yeah, that's for the additional address line from the 6847. So it sees.
So you can use all 8K for video memory instead of just the first 4K.
Well, you can use 6K, but that's the 6847.
Well, no, I know you could technically do like page flipping between them, or can you do page flipping on?
Nope, you cannot move the page.
That's right. Yeah, that's the same.
You would have to have additional hardware to be able to do that sort of thing.
Wasn't there an 8K upgrade that made graphics sparks and stuff? You know, if you
I have no idea what you're talking about.
One of the first 8K extra memory you can put in an MC10 back a ways in time. It's one that Steve Strove got, and then
that's the one that does the extra video RAM, so you can get the higher graphics modes.
Right, but didn't that have trouble with when you used the 20K pack or whatever? Or
there's a conflict in the addresses.
Yeah,
but they should both be delivering the same thing. So other than a little extra noise or something on some of the lines, I would think.
Yeah, my MC10 had that problem,
works.
and I just had to change one of the lines to grounding it rather than where it was hooked up, and it took care of that conflict.
Okay, so there's a fix.
Okay, cool. Glad you experts are on the panel, because I know nothing about this stuff.
Experts.
or anything at all if you ask some of the people in the panel. Okay, a couple of Dragon ones here. Wayland, who's actually in the chat, did a couple of Mandelbrot sets. The first one, and this is part of the 8-bit Battle Royale, this was done with comparisons to some of the more modern remakes of 8-bit machines, like the Spectrum Next, and what was the other one? The Commander X16, I think, is the 8-bit guys. Of course, those are running much more modern FPGA-based systems, kind of emulating stuff. So, of course, they run way faster. But it was kind of interesting seeing how the different basics compared, for drawing out Mandelbrots. Now, the first one he does here is an actual text version, rendering it with actual text characters. Then he did a semi-graphics version. Now, this is one that I actually had done a video of based on running it on the CoCo 3, which did it pretty good timing-wise, I think, compared to the rest of them here. So I'll just, I won't run the whole thing here, but.
Actually, I posted.
You posted multiple ones we've covered.
I posted Drill Mandel, the graphics ones, but I did the text one recently with the 6309 control and the hardware multiply patch.
Okay.
So
I
that
don't
should
think
be
I've ever
on
seen-
one of the last, I don't know, 5 posts or so.
I don't think I've ever seen a text-based Mandelbrot generator. This is fascinating.
That's originally back to, oh geez, that's been around a long time. That
Oh, like the original ones back in the day, like in the 70s, I guess, probably were text-based, huh?
I don't know that they were doing Mandelbrats yet in the 70s, but when they first started doing them, someone tried to do it with text.
Huh. Interesting. Cool.
And here's the more standard one. We're using just the semi-graphics blocks, basically a 32x16 screen to render it that way. And this is one where you took the code and you actually basically duplicated. So when I did my Basic 9 version, I did add some stuff at the beginning. Like I have it print out the date and time so you can figure out how long it took to run the entire thing. And I also set up so it's on the right type of a window to draw it on, because on OS 9, of course, you'd be running in any graphics mode or something too, so you want to make sure you're doing something consistent. So that's what the graphic one looks like. And this is actually my Basic 9 version. Now, this is not the latest Basic 9 with some further patches to speed things up, but this is running on a 40 column, so you can see it's also a double speed, of course, because the CoCo 3 is running at 1.78, but you can see it's a little bit faster than the other ones.
No, that's
it took under a minute.
Compiled, though, right?
What's that?
That is compiled, right?
Nope. That's running in raw in the Basic 9 interpreter. Which actually, if I remember correctly, like here's the actual listing, so I haven't packed it or anything.
I thought Basic 09 did compile it to like an I code, they called it.
When you pack it, you have to type pack first, and it strips comments and a bunch of line numbers and stuff out there. But I didn't do that. That was running right in the interpreter part of Basic 9.
Okay.
So
it wouldn't be hard to be faster than Microsoft Basic. I think we discussed this.
Yeah, I think we got Ragey. I think we got Stevie to rage quit the show over discussing it, didn't we? Or is that something?
Yeah, we got sidetracked there a bit.
Anyway, I thought this was a good way to segue into my next thing, which actually was not on the news that everybody else has got shared, though some people do know from private. As of late last night, after I finished some work stuff here, I've actually released Ease of Use version 1. We're out of beta officially.
What?
So you can actually go onto my page here, and you can see right here. You can go download it.
Ease of Abuse.
Yeah. I didn't bother upgrading any of the screenshots because I just was running out of time, but not too much has changed anyway. Right now, we've currently got the 6809, 609, and then the 6809, 609 Gimme X versions. This does include the new Basic 9 and Run B packages that actually have some optimized math for both CPUs. As far as I know, this is the first modifications to the Basic 9 code itself to speed it up since the original 1980 release by Motorola and Microwave. There's also a ton of other stuff added in, including some stuff like the control program version 3 from Fred, who's actually on the panel. We've also got the new DCC compiler, which has a bunch of additional features, which I won't go into here, thanks to Jeff Tennyson. We've also got a whole bunch of Jim Gary stuff. So he supplied some level 1 and level 2 programs, quite a few games, but some other stuff, serious stuff too, including an astronomy program that'll interest Ron.
Yay!
And
now,
me,
if you're,
I'm into that too.
if you're running the level 1 stuff, I will warn you, because of trying to maintain backwards compatibility with level 1, you can pretty well run only one BDG based graphic program at a time, or you'll run out of system RAM. So if you launch one of those, make sure you exit before you try running another one. If you're running some of the standard level 2 stuff, like he's got a text-based football and some other stuff on there too, those you can run just fine. Also, there's Todd Wallace. He's given us permission to include the CoCo IRC chat. So if these will require DriveWire, these two here. The CoCo IRC chats, you can actually really log into the IRC chat and actually talk to other CoCo users from your CoCo going through DriveWire. And hopefully that'll be updated for some of the network cards, like the stuff that Rick Euland's working on. And also his CoCo Weather programs on there too. And now that's been expanded a little bit, so it has both a text mode, where it'll actually print stuff with text characters, or you can run on a graphic font with some custom things for your degree symbol and stuff.
WeFax, right?
What's that?
This is not WeFax, right?
No, this is pulling it from a specific website I came out of the top of my head. It's in the documentation.
You just had to.
Yeah, but he also has a new graphic mode, which he kind of previewed on the show before. We'll actually have like a symbol for clouds and a symbol for sun or whatever, and then the actual temperatures. You can tell it if you want it in metric or in Fahrenheit. You can tell it to update it every 10 seconds, etc. So that's included as well. So there's also my version of CoCoTAL, which is the port of Wordle that Rick Adams had done. Now, I didn't bother updating mine with all the updates Rick was doing over the time, so mine's probably about the equivalent of his third version or something. But that's on there if you want to play that. Written in Basic 9, source code included. Space Sap by Floyd Resler, which is based on the arcade game. That's on there too, so it's another Floyd Resler game to go along with GemQuest. And just to let you know, this one here, GemQuest, that's another Floyd Resler game, so that's another game you can play on there. Here you can see the demo I showed at CoCo Fest, and also when we were on the Amigos channel, where actually I was playing Rogue and running the graphic demo that comes with multi-view and running a Basic 9 program all on the same screen at the same time, so showing you real multitasking. And then here I was playing Rogue, a Shell, and Zone Runner at the same time. So some of those stuff was included, and some demos and games and stuff, whatever. The one other thing, Bill Noble will be working when he gets time on getting the Matchbox. Getting the Matchbox version released. That's not ready yet. Michael Furman is going to be working on the CoCo 3 FPGA version. In fact, I just sent him the final one late last night too. I don't know if he's had a chance to look at it yet, but that should be coming shortly. It'll be supplied on his site, or I'll probably end up putting a direct link to it from here too. And I think there's another version. Is it the one that works with XWare that requires the IDE driver? Because of the XWare, unlike the other emulators, doesn't use an EMU disk style thing where it's just kind of a fake hard drive interface. It actually emulates Glenside IDE basically, and XWare require that driver. So I think, I can't remember, I think it's Mike actually will be working on that too. So that really should be coming out so you can actually play with XWare as well. As it currently stands, the versions here will work on a real CoCo with an SDC, or it will work on MAME or BCC or OVCC. And definitely want to get some feedback from you guys, but see what you guys think. It's meant to be the first officially stable version. It's been pretty stable for a while. I haven't had too many crashes with it. It's got some bug fixes, etc. There's a ton of stuff in there. But go grab it.
Thank you. Appreciate all the hard work.
And Rick Euland, this includes that official fix for handling the keyboard and the mouse for selecting menu stuff here, so you can finally release Web Wrangler to the public.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, even if we never use it.
Way to help me plug it there, Jay.
That is thanking him on one hand and slapping him on the other.
That's how we roll.
Yeah.
That one change though was actually huge because hotkeys never actually worked before.
Yeah, they were kind of mentioned in the manual and they never did work.
Well, if the menu was open already, they worked. But if you had to use your mouse to open the menu, I would use the hotkey.
Yeah.
So it was like the cart before the horse. So this is going to make a big change. You can just write programs now where you don't have to worry about if you have a menu or not. So cool.
The main concentration I had this one, there's a few bug fixes, a couple of utilities, and like I said, some of the games and stuff too. But my main concentration was working on Basic 9. That's going to be ongoing. Basically, I was optimizing math routines, integer and floating point. I was bringing run B on the 639 up to where Basic 9 was. So a lot of the speed optimizations are in there. That can be, I think, Fred, you were doing some testing. It's about 12 to 13% faster than the one program you tried.
Yeah, that's right. The Mandelbrot program that I demonstrated last week, I compared, the new Run B versus the old Run B, and I saw about a 12% increase in speed.
Yeah. Nice. And I managed to wrangle a 1 to 3% speed increase on some of the 609 stuff. So now that's if you're doing nothing but math. So if you're actually like drawing stuff or doing stuff based on math, of course, the other code's going to take some time. So you're not going to see a 1 to 3% speed increase in your program. But it'll be a slight increase. And I'm going to see if I can sneak some other stuff out of there too. So I'm hoping to get the 6809 a little bit faster too. And to be honest, 6809 Basic 9 is pretty fast. It's pretty decent on its own. So anyway, that's the surprise that this got released late last night. This is the first public mention. I got to start hitting up all the Facebook groups and retro groups and stuff here to let them know that it's all out. And we're officially out of beta because I did get some people that I thought would be interested in trying it over the last couple of years. And they said, I don't do beta software. I don't trust anything that's beta. It might wreck my machine. Okay, come on. It's now not beta anymore officially. So Go grab it, and we'll see if you crash my computer because it's getting hit too hard. Because it's hosted on this machine too. And that is the end of the news for today.
Oh, good.
So everyone get his server at once.
Where are we going to be?
Look now.
What do I do now?
I had, earlier I said Rick Osterpower was looking for Rick Osterpower. He must be watching the show because I got an email right after it, and he sent me another address, and I sent him the file.
Well, that
and
one
he got it.
the one guy in YouTube was kind of hinting that he was him, so that's why I was wondering if you checked.
Right, yeah. So he, that's problem solved.
Oh. What a great game. Let's,
So Nick, we probably need to check on my order too.
Let me see. I'll just see if yours was one of the. Oh yeah, yours was one of the ones in the 5 or 6 that were delayed. It's been shipped out just yesterday.
Okay, but email.
I sent you the files.
Look in your spam.
Yeah.
All of Nick's email goes in my spam for some reason.
Everything from Nick always goes in the spam folder, where normally it would belong.
That's part of standard filtering, right?
I'll check, but spam always gets deleted. Okay, I will check. Like I said, I just got back home.
I'll send you an email now just to be sure, and check it. You'll know that it was sent, and where it goes, who knows?
Was it Cox or Gmail?
Let me look up I'll find you on the list here somewhere.
While they're doing this, I'll run a commercial.
That's your deal.
Let's see here.
Hi, Retro Tech Heads. Data Soup here. You're watching CoCoTALK, the world's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy color computer and proudly Patreon sponsored by RetroTechTime.com.
Hey guys, it's Stevie Strode. If you've been watching CoCoTALK for a while, hopefully you understand that everyone is welcome to join this show. You don't need an impressive resume to get on. You just need to enjoy the CoCo and be willing to talk about it. There is no wrong way to CoCo. There is no wrong way to be a fan of the CoCo. There's no wrong way to be on CoCoTALK. You just have to want to talk CoCo. So if you would like to join us, then reach out to us on our Discord server, which is discord.cocotalk.live, or send an email to cocotalk@cocotalk.live, and let's get you on the show and let's talk about the CoCo.
Tired of switching your joystick between the left and right port? Want to change between different controllers? Well, Joey has got you covered. The Joey Controller Switch. Take control of your controllers with the flip of 2 switches. Order today at cocoman.biz.
The time has come to unite the world under one nation, an 8-bit nation, a neon green nation, the CoCo Nation. The CoCo Nation Show, coming soon.
Disk image is one of the support PDFs.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, when I download files, I verify all the zip files, and that one seems to have a CRC error.
That's weird. I used 7-zip for that, so why would it? That should self-check when it's creating the file.
All right, we're back. So I have a question for Mark B.
Yes.
How was your vacation day?
On the road. Just made it back home, as you can tell behind me here.
Nice.
Oh, I thought that was a chroma screen.
No.
So.
Somehow I got all my laundry to do now that would have done last night.
So the test stream is done, and we can now have the show.
Yep. The dress rehearsal.
Give me a minute. I'll
With
be ready.
feeling.
All right. Have we covered everything? Are we ready to run the outro, or do we have something else?
Outro. I just got here.
I got my RAM.
I thought that was the outro you were playing, or was that just an ad break?
That was an ad break. So, yeah, I need to order my Jumping Joey so that I can get my cool cellophane box.
I guess one thing I'd like to ask for the people that are directly involved with setting up the new shows that are here, like I know the show is officially transitioning the first show in January, and we're taking some time off for Christmas. It'll be good for testing some of this stuff and kind of getting bugs ironed out, etc. But how are we coming along with getting everything all set up and accounts all moved and that kind of stuff? Like, is there a status report or update? Like, I know the Patreon got delayed a little bit for a bit. I remember.
Check
Grant
this
mentioned.
out, Curtis. Sloopy streamed the show today. That's
Okay.
kind of a big hint. That's kind of a big hint how the setup has been going.
Okay, no, I was wondering like the Patreon and the PayPal and some of the stuff that sounded like it was getting delayed.
Patreon is open. The
Cool.
PayPal and the Patreon are done. Basically, we've had the test stream on the new setup, and that worked. All the accounts and things like that, with all their mandatory hold times and validations and whatever, seem to be done. We're just right now in the middle of the transition, and so far so good. And even when Streamer Prime decides to go have a vacation day.
How dare he?
And here we go. And Sloopy, I think that I know it probably felt horrible and frustrating, but I thought it came out actually pretty dang good for no dress rehearsal.
Yeah.
That was the only issue I heard everybody saying was
seen
that
worse.
echo, which kind of got solved later on too. So
Yeah, I was wondering about you saying that I was streaming the show, whether that was a compliment or insult. So.
We had a show, man.
Yeah.
I guess I can add a little bit to that. We did simulcast this, so it's been on the I Am a Coconut Talk and CoCoTALK stream, as well as the new channels. We have the website is bringing these live ones and all of our videos just directly on it as well. So that's the CoCoNation.com.
Cool.
We have a Facebook group page and book, which is also showing the live videos. Twitch is running. We are now on Twitter, and it is also pushing out all these videos. Instagram, that one is not pushing live, but we're working on that. Podbean is getting there. We are on the Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TikTok, MeWe, and Spotify are generated, and we will be starting to push to those real soon.
Cool. And how about media stuff like new splash pages and intros that we have to get the name replaced?
Yeah,
we need a new intro, huh?
Yeah, we're definitely working on that. We've got actually some of the previous people that worked on the original ones. In addition, some in the community are actually stepping up and sending in all kinds of images. Rondell O, Ken Reichert,
Mark Siegel.
Yep, he's actually he sent quite a few. D. Bruce, we've had quite a few different people sending stuff. So eventually, I think what we'll do is, like, for the logo. I know it was a really rushed transition to try to get this working.
You don't say.
Yeah. So we're gonna actually hopefully slow down the logo process and actually give it out to the community, probably through Discord and Facebook are our two main I guess, streams for social networking at the moment, maybe MeWe, and we'll have everybody vote on what the community would like to see, because this is a community show, not just one or two individuals. This is
Yeah.
going to be everybody. So
Honestly, it has been for a while, so it's
Yeah,
good because
yep.
everybody stepped up to the plate here when all this happened. So
it has been awesome. The whole group's been awesome, and
in fact, I will blame all of that for Ease of Use being a couple days late.
And having a bad file.
Well, I got to check that there. I'm kind of baffled how it didn't report a serious error when creating it, because it's supposed to check it as it creates.
So, Curtis, when is EOU 1.1 coming out?
I don't know. Depending on how many bugs, and there's one bug I know I have to fix. Well, actually two, because you mentioned one with the WinFo via EFIO utility pack, and then there's one CoVDG bug I haven't had a chance to fix yet, but it's not a fatal one like the first two that I fixed. So either we're going to go for a 1.0.1 release if it's just minor fixes and changes, maybe an additional program or two that didn't quite make it in time, or it might be a 1.1.0 if there's some more major changes. And that depends partly on Bill's schedule getting back to normal, because I know he had some stuff that he'd started but hasn't had a chance to complete yet. So it'll depend.
I'd also like to mention there's been quite a few questions on why CoCoTALK is ending. I know Steve was on last episode. I think we're going to try to cut that piece out of last week's episode and put that up as a separate video, just so everybody can go kind of listen to it for themselves and understand, part of the reasoning for the name change and
yeah, and then it's from the horse's mouth too, so you're not hearing our interpretation. You're actually hearing it right from Stevie.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. So I either Grant or I'll get that done here ASAP. Sorry, I don't have it done yet. It's been a nutty week.
Yeah. No, the reason I asked is I know like we've got a lot of internal discussions on the Discord, like Alan was mentioning stuff here too, and I do know some of the stuff that I've been asking, but for the general audience, they have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. So I just want to make sure that everybody's kind of kept up to date as to what's going on and get it recorded as part of the show so that people know.
You bet. And we'll start putting out as much as we can. I have been putting some stuff out on Facebook as far as the links and things, and Discord. So if anybody has any suggestions, ideas, please put them out there. We'll all the help we can get would be awesome.
Yeah. The only issue I've hit, and it's not your fault at all, it's that stupid meta crap that Facebook's doing here. Because when I log in on my phone, it wants me to be an administrator and download a separate app to even respond to somebody's post. Yet if I do it on the computer, it'll ask, do you want to respond as yourself as a user, or do you want to respond as an administrator? Which is what it should be doing on the app on the phone. Because half the time I'm on the phone, responding because I'm not here. I don't have access to a computer, and it's kind of silly. I'm almost was really ready to ask you guys to take me off as administrator just so I can respond to posts on there as a normal
I agree.
human being.
I don't like how they did it. YouTube also, they've changed kind of their URL structure. Now it has the @ symbol in front of, it used to be like, I think it was youtube.com/ whatever your channel name. Now it added the @ symbol in front of it. And of course that confuses people. When you're
another thing that YouTube did is it used to have, if you clicked on, like I went on the I'm a Coconut page, I wanted to reference an old episode. So I usually click on videos and it gives a list in, chronological reverse order. Like here's all the recent shows. And now all of a sudden, most of the CoCoTALK stuff is gone. And I'm going, what the heck?
Yeah.
And then when I took a look, you have to click on live because it shows you old live streams. Then it does the chronological of the live streams, but the regular page no longer shows all the original live streams because it used to show both. So that gave me
I agree, and I don't like
shock.
that. They've made a kind of a mess out of it. So we'll I guess that's one other thing I'll mention. We are going to be receiving the old episodes and interviews from CoCoTALK from Steve. We're going to import those. They will also be on the new YouTube channel as well. So if you are trying to look up an old episode, you'll be able to actually get to it on both channels. And Steve was going to point back to the CoCo Nation from his channels, just so people aren't confused going forward. So we will have all that as soon as we get the info. So sorry, the interim's a little confusing, but I think we're starting to equalize a little bit.
Yeah, and it's obviously another reason that we're going to take the the last what would have been the last two shows of 2022 and not go in there, because I think we want to try to get all the stuff cemented away, do some tests, and make sure we're not scrambling to do it. As the transition, we want the transition to go as smooth as possible. So I think it's just give ourselves some breathing space. Plus, we deserve a holiday after 5 years, don't we? Except maybe Mark. He took a holiday day today already, so he's off.
A likely story.
Mark, you just got to do what I do. You just have to stay up longer and get less sleep.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up, because there's a lot of people that have been talking about it. So I've noticed that in other other Discords that are related, they have been asking what happened, what's going on, and such, and it seems that questions.
I know the Amigos, there was a
answered.
big discussion in there, like what? Why is this happening?
Yeah, and the thing is that it doesn't really fully answer the question of what's going on, why, and all that. I mean, it covers the top of the iceberg, but not down low, and everyone seems to want to dig deep.
Yeah, and the other thing, just to confirm for people, Discord as it is not going to change, because that's not controlled by anybody else but me.
Which is a scary thought in itself. But...
All hail David Ladd! All hail David Ladd!
Yeah, I think the only thing changing is the name of some of the channels to reflect the name change. But all the billion channels you can't find anything on now are still there.
Still there, and they still don't have anything on them.
Hey! The search function does work in Discord.
Not
so
well. It sucks. It's like trying to search for crap on Facebook.
This
I've been
is
trying
not
to
an
use the search
after-dark
function, as you guys have been mentioning it here, and it finds stuff that has nothing to do with what I'm looking for.
It's sort of like trying to find a capacitor I dropped on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you look hard enough and constantly get down on your hands and knees and go over it with a flashlight, yeah, eventually you will find it. But it takes a while.
Embed it in your knee. Walk around
Yeah.
in socks, you'll find it. Yep.
I mean, honestly, I probably got to learn. There's probably some hidden search features, syntax for doing certain things that I want to do that I probably just need to learn. But just typing in a subject is finding stuff from 2017 or something I have no interest in.
You can actually filter by user and I think channel and a couple other things.
Well, if you remember what channel it was in that you're looking for, and you remember what user posted it, which I usually don't, that doesn't help me at all, Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even then it doesn't even work, because I searched for a word, a unusual word that I know was said, and the only way I found it was I knew which channel it was said in, and I scrolled back a year and a half and finally found it myself. So
it does find some things that occasionally. I should say it's not completely garbage, but it's hit or miss.
Yeah, it seems best optimized for the last 3 months or so, and that's about it.
Yeah,
anything beyond that, you're pretty much.
So I did find that post from Terry Steen about what he's doing right now, in case you're curious.
Yeah,
Curtis.
please let me know.
It just says, well, Mr. Dave was feature creeping him on the game. And he said, I'm actually deep into an assembly project, not a game, that will occupy me for months. I'm considering redoing my catalog for fun once the project is finished. So much to make better.
So is that a CoCo assembly language project he's working on?
He didn't say. He just said he's working on an assembly project. That's not a game.
Okay.
Okay. Are we done?
He's porting Excel to the CoCo or something. I don't know.
We already have done a CoCo in Excel for times.
Yeah, it's true. Maybe Outlook then. There we go.
Yeah, I have nothing more to add today. I did get I will mention one thing. I got a private message from Boat saying that he actually did have something he was going to announce a little bit later, but then he had to go. So unfortunately, I didn't catch that until way late. He said it like half an hour before I noticed.
He should have said something to me.
We'll hopefully have him on next week too, whatever that announcement is.
We'll get him back in here. Let's get this announcement. But all right, the only announcement I have left before we run the outro is I want to say hello to our new viewer today, Lone Star 69, who just joined the Discord the day before yesterday, and he's watching the show now. So I want to show a sense of community and say hi to him, and we are out of here as soon as I find the button for the...
This concludes another episode of CoCoTALK, the world's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy Color computer, MC10, and Dragon systems. For all things CoCoTALK, visit us on the web at CoCoTALK.live. We'd love to hear from you. Send feedback, suggestions, even segments via email to CoCoTALK@CoCoTALK.live. Consider supporting the show with a purchase of merchandise from our retro swag shop at 8bit256.com. If you'd like to become a patron of the show, click on the Patreon link on our website, CoCoTALK.live. CoCoTALK would not exist without the community, its cast, crew, and contributors. Thanks go to Alan Murphy, Amigos Retro Gaming, Bill Noble, Brian Joyce, Brian Weaver, Curtis Boyle, D. Bruce Moore, Danny O'Connor, David Ladd, Eric Canales, George Jansen, Grant Leedy, James Diffendapper, Jason Reichert, Jim Brain, Ken Reichert, Ken Waters, Mark Bosley, Mark Overholzer, Mikey Furman, Mr. Dave 6309, Nick Marentes, Nick Marotta, Nick Marotta, Nick Marotta, Paul Fiscarelli, Richard Lorbieski, Rick Adams, Rick Hewlin, Rob Inman, Ron Delvaux, Samuel Gimes, Sloopy Malibu, Steve Bjork, Terry Steggy, Tom C., and many, many more. Please help support the CoCo community. A list of various contributors and resources are available at imacoconut.com. That's IMACOCONUT.com. The original CoCoTALK theme song is copyright 2008 by D. Bruce Moore and Greg Sheeler. The new CoCoTALK theme song is copyright 2020 by D. Bruce Moore. Both are mixed, mastered, and produced by D. Bruce Moore. CoCo forever!
The CoCoTALK train wreck is over, and we welcome you to the last surviving car.
All right, welcome back. And is there anything anyone wants to say before we go?
Thank you, Sloopy.
Yeah, thanks very much, Sloopy. It was pretty smooth. Oh, given it's this first time you actually hosted the full show.
Yeah, I've wanted to offer to do it for a while, but I needed a new video card in my computer, and finally someone kindly donated something newer so that I could. So.
And you figured out the audio issue and how to solve it, I think, partway through the show, if I understand correctly?
Yeah, just put a mute on me.
Yeah, I was listening on Twitch before I came back on, and yeah, it was the echo was coming and going. And I think it was coming through Sloopy's mic.
Yeah, I'll look for a way to rectify that better.
Super amplified headphones.
Yeah.
I was playing with running Zoom for Restream and came up with some stuff. I'll have to go look at my notes and send it to you. I think I found a way to make Zoom shut up so that it doesn't echo back into the stream.
Yeah. Well, the problem is that my speakers is like a 2.1 system with two speakers and a sub, and I have a Blue Yeti microphone which is really sensitive, so it's probably just
but you're
reading
also getting the system sound and microphone sound both coming back. It was really messed up.
So it's almost like your speakers need to be well in front of your microphone, so that speakers are,
It's not your speakers. It's the Restream audio and the Zoom audio, which are off time by the time it takes to send a restream.
Right.
Right.
So
That's what makes
you
sense.
can mute Zoom somehow. I'll send it to you if it makes sense.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
well,
they'll just show.
everything's going
Yeah,
to be changing here soon.
60 saying
So.
in the chat here, Karen, if anyone on the panel has been playing chip tunes, something was injecting those into the stream at a really low level.
What's chip tune?
Music on an old 8-bit sound.
Yeah, like 8-bit sound card or something.
8-bit weapon.
I wasn't trying to listen to the stream too often. I did listen a couple times quickly just to hear the echoing effect that they were talking about, but I didn't catch that particular thing.
It like made it really, really deep.
Yeah. Well, Mark, you're really low anyway, so.
Yeah.
Oh, I
You're-
can probably fix that.
Yeah, you're pretty quiet.
Yeah, you sound like you're out in the field. But
Looks like Ken's getting the cat treatment.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm waiting for mine to wake up and come after me here too for food or something. So.
Is that any better?
oh yeah, much better. That sounds like your normal voice.
Yeah. Just had to tweak it because I don't normally do Zoom on this computer. I'm doing it on my second one.
Yeah. I don't do a lot with sound because I have hearing issues, and usually when I have things playing, people complain that I can hear that all through the house. It's too loud. Turn it down. So.
Get a hearing aid.
I would love to, but I can't.
Huh?
The insurance will cover the hearing aid, but they won't cover the $4,000 in testing that I need done, because part of the problem is not just hearing the sound, but processing the sound, which requires a DSP.
So Ron, is that the brand new EOU you're running there?
It's up.
Okay, go to apps. go to the apps folder, Ron.
And while he's doing that, Nick, I did find the emails. It was in the spam folder.
No, there you go. On your Gmail account.
Yep.
Yeah,
Should I do
there
the
you go.
temperature?
Email.
No, that unless you got DriveWire all set up, that won't work right now.
okay.
So let's mention the docs. But there should be a Gal Sat or something.
Yeah, Galilean sat.
Yeah, that's the one I was specifically thinking of you.
Oh, I did see that. I did notice that. Does that show like the positions of Jupiter's moons or something? Or
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Or the span of time, so you can actually see how the orbits would look if you're looking through binoculars or telescope.
Oh, nice. Okay. Cool.
Oh, cool.
Well, I'm out
And
of
on the
here.
bottom, you can actually see the position you'd see through the
Yeah.
telescope type thing.
Neat.
Figured you'd like that one.
Oh yeah. Lovey dovey.
So I have a comment to make before you guys go. So I don't want.
Are we still on the air? First of all,
Yeah, we're on the air.
We're still on the air.
Yeah.
we should probably say our
Okay.
goodbyes and have our private
Never mind.
discussion right after that.
Let's wait till we're not on the air.
Bye, everybody.
See you all next week.
Okay, bye everybody.
So long.